Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the national anthem of Jamaica, to be immediately followed by a 3-minute video excerpt of our video, Lady Bosses Determined to Triumph Over Hurricane Beryl Losses. Please stand.
Like this one, Hurricane Beryl impacted homes, businesses, and farms. Livelihoods were instantly wiped out. Women and persons with disabilities are impacted by natural disasters differently and harder. Join us as we meet and hand over inputs and supplies to 3 of 40 women entrepreneurs who were impacted by Hurricane Beryl. Let's start that natural conversation on how it is that we can help to build and help women and vulnerable groups to recover and build resilience after a natural disaster.
I had a shade house, and when I came and looked at the shade house when Beryl passed, it was flat. I lost a lot of plants during the rain because of the rain and the wind then. And my house, the top went and the back of the house went. It set us back in income because, I don't have any plants to sell. So it was really hard, and it was hard to come by the plants that I have now. Being a single mother of 2 children, it's really hard. I don't have any fatherly support, so it was hard to come back. Knowing that I have to send them to school and I don't have any plans. It was depressing knowing that you can't find things for your children.
Well, the hurricane affects me badly because I lose the chicken and the cob during Beryl. So it has set me back a bit financially. So for me personally, the disability is one of the greatest challenges for me. As a woman, especially as a single parent, trust me, it's not easy, and for me to, as a woman, to earn and to be able to provide for me and my son. It's challenging sometimes because in everything you have its ups and downs. But I'm a person who I persevere. I don't let anything stop me from doing what I'm doing. Because even when I started, family members said to me that you can't manage, but I'm a very determined person, and I go for what I want. So I don't let my disability stop me from earning, because I love my own money. I don't like to depend on people, so I do what I do.
My name is Maya Biggs. I am from Pleasant Valley in Clarendon, where I do chicken rearing on this foundation here, our property, where I raise 100 chickens. And when the storm Beryl came, it take away my livelihood, what I do, to take care of my kids and also send them go to school and help myself also as well.
And on that powerful note, from our 3 beneficiaries of our Livelihoods Recovery Program, it is my honor to welcome you to Hurricane Ready and Resilient, a one-stop forum for lessons, tips, and testimonials on hurricane resilience and recovery for micro, small, and medium enterprises. We also know them as small businesses. My name is Gillian Scott. It is Tuesday, June 10th, and we are live on location from UNDP, Lady Musgrave Road in Kingston, Jamaica. We're beaming live at this time to UNDP and GIS's YouTube and Facebook accounts. Today's Hurricane Forum on Loss and Damage is part 3 of UNDP's Resilience series, created to support and spotlight hurricane resilient best practices. Now more than ever, we are called on to become hurricane resilient as more intense and frequent hurricane systems are passing through the Caribbean region. We have several special guests on location here with us and online on Zoom to help to explore some of these issues and to, of course, generate tips and guidance for some of our MSMEs who are signed in online to our Zoom account and online on Facebook and YouTube. Please help me in welcoming Marcia Henry Martin, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Local Government and Community Development, Director General, Office for Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, Mr. Richard Thompson, Harold Davis, CEO of the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, Samantha Roll, Executive Director, Small Business Development Corporation of the Bahamas, and her team, who are online on our Zoom platform, Garnet Reed, President, Small Business Association of Jamaica, and his team, who are here with us on location. Welcome. Delia Dwyer Hodlin, Principal Director for MSME, Industry, Emerging Sector, and ISO in the Ministry of Industry, Investment, and Commerce. Marina Young, Principal Director, Technical Services for the Rural Agricultural Development Authority. Patrick Watson, Senior Director, Hazard Mitigation and Risk Management, Ministry of Local Government and Community Development. Michelle Edwards, Deputy Director General, Office of the Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management. Dwayne Haynes, Senior Director Interim for MSME Division, Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. Rochelle Graham Barnes, Acting Director, National Shelter, Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports. And we also welcome Team UNDP, who are here with us on location, some here in the large conference room and others watching live. Greetings to all our viewers on Zoom and our YouTube and Facebook channels. We urge you to share, like, and comment on the live. The hashtag for today is Hurricane Resilient, with a T, as a declaration of who we are and what we want to be. So let's start declaring we are hurricane resilient. Hashtag. So even in this room, we ask you to share the live, take pictures, share on your accounts, to spread the message abroad that we need to focus on hurricane resilience in order to be hurricane resilient. Wonderful. So the first of our speakers in our very brief opening ceremony will be seated with me, Marcia Henry Martin, PS, in the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development, and of course UNDP's resident representative, Mr. Kishan Kode. Mr. Kode is UNDP resident representative. As the most senior UNDP official for our multi-country office in Jamaica, he's resident representative for Jamaica, Bermuda, the Bahamas, Cayman Islands, and Turks and Caicos. And believe it or not, he also serves as resident representative for Belize. So I'm going to invite now Mr. Kode to take it away.
Well, good morning, and let me start by welcoming everybody back to UNDP. I think everybody has likely been here before over the years, and even last year, of course, with Beryl. But let me start first with a warm good morning to Jamaica, a good morning to Bahamas, to everybody that's gathered here in our room, all the ministries that are present, a very strong turnout from the private sector as well. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. This is a very important dialogue. And of course, the large gathering online streaming live, and also that will be seeing this, of course, after the fact via the internet. So a very good morning. Thanks in particular to Ms. Gillian Scott our leader for the Resilience Series over the years, for another excellent job in bringing this all together, and for everybody else involved in my team at UNDP. UNDP has really been privileged, I would say, proud to be a partner to Jamaica, Bahamas, Turks, Cayman, Bermuda, and others across the Caribbean in building that disaster resilience over the past 25 years or so. We're marking soon UNDP's 50th anniversary of our presence here in Jamaica. And so a lot of course, great collaborations over the years on this agenda and into the future. So today's Resilience Series for 2025 is a very important one, focusing on loss and damage, focusing in particular on the private sector and those MSMEs that are, of course, the bulk of the private sector in any country, globally, including here in the Caribbean. It's a timely conversation. The private sector, the MSME is a vital part of the private sector in general, in Jamaica, the Bahamas, and other parts of the Caribbean. Significant part of the economy, employs most of the people, connects communities across the island to goods and services that everyone relies on. But having suffered significant losses and damages over the years, not least last year with Hurricane Beryl, I want to first start by saying a big congratulations to our female business leaders in Jamaica that got through that in a very resilient way. We're proud to have done our small part in that process, in contribution to the government's response last year. But just congratulations to our colleagues, including those who've traveled all the way to join us here in our room today. UNDP is really proud to have been part of the Santiago Network on Loss and Damage. That's the global network on loss and damage that brings together all countries on trying to make sure there's that adequate support from countries that can afford it to other countries that are really impacted at the center of the storm of climate change and disasters. But also the emergence now of the Secretariat for the new Global Fund on Loss and Damage, which is a new fund that's capitalized and now starting to provide technical assistance, starting to provide that funding to countries that are part of the Paris Agreement on climate change. So in addition to our expanding work on climate change and disaster risk reduction, we're also prioritizing support to countries on loss and damage. And in this regard, we're happy to announce that we're indeed open for business in terms of discussing possible new loss and damage projects in Jamaica, in the Bahamas, in other parts of the Caribbean that we're working in. Estimates show, for example, from 1980 to 2020, loss and damage as a percentage of GDP were the highest in Caribbean SIDS, small island developing states, at an average of 2.5% of GDP, compared to 2% for Pacific SIDS, for islands in the Pacific, or 0.2% for the rest of Latin America. So as we know, of course, SIDS, Caribbean SIDS in particular, are a hotspot for this challenge. And looking ahead, climate damages alone are forecast to increase in the Caribbean from 5% of GDP estimated by 2025, i.e. this year, to 20% by 2100. So that represents, by that time, $22 billion in annual losses. So it's a drag on achieving development goals. It's a drag on fiscal space needed for achieving various social and economic resilience goals that countries have in the region. Key sectors implicated: tourism, agriculture, of course, at the center in Jamaica and other SIDS. The former tourism could see GDP reduced by 38 to 47%, according to some studies, by end of the century. So close to half of the GDP of the tourism sector in some SIDS economies in the coming decades, by the end of the century, possibly. So how do we build resilience to make sure that doesn't happen? But a particular concern and focus for today's gathering, of course, is the high-risk communities. That's both the high-risk communities in terms of parts of the islands, including in Bahamas and Jamaica, but also high-risk segments, such as small and medium-sized enterprises, micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, which are the base for those community livelihoods. This became really evident last year, needless to say, with Beryl. MSMEs constitute 90% of all enterprises in Jamaica, 98% in Bahamas, 28% of GDP, and 80% of jobs. 47% of the workforce in the Bahamas, and up to 30% of GDP as well. So obviously a pillar for the nation, for these nations. Micro enterprises in particular are tiny but mighty and largely informal. So the power of SMEs is easily felt by a hurricane. MSMEs are disproportionately vulnerable to hurricane impacts because of their informality, especially in the micro enterprise sector, given the size, limited resources, inadequate access to financing, insurance, and disaster preparedness. MSMEs operated by women and persons with disabilities contend with additional layers of vulnerability, as we saw indeed last year and the focus of UNDP's cooperation. There are also nuanced requirements related specifically to needs of women and persons with disabilities that tend to be overlooked during response and recovery. So simply put, MSMEs are too significant to national well-being, to the achievement of Vision 2030 and 2040 goals in Bahamas as well, to fail or to sustain lengthy closures after a disaster. We must redouble efforts to secure their national disaster resilience and accelerate recovery. Now, a couple of years ago, we had our assessments of Hurricane Dorian, particularly in Bahamas, as well as the impact of the pandemic. And that showed that 63% of MSMEs were affected by this combined double crisis impact, with more than 55% of MSMEs permanently closing in that hotspot in Abaco, and even 11% in the Grand Bahamas permanently closing. So we need comprehensive disaster preparedness plans tailored specifically for MSMEs, the resources to build that resilience and early recovery. By enhancing financial support mechanisms, including possibly from new loss and damage financing mechanisms, we can expand relief beyond grants to accessible insurance schemes and private partnerships as well. So disaster risk resilience and recovery remains a cornerstone of UNDP's offer. And over the years, we've allocated $100 million annually to these efforts across countries around the world, of course. This is coupled with our ongoing portfolio of over $4 billion of grants on climate action to countries around the world. Through UNDP's current country program in Jamaica, Bahamas, Bermuda, Cayman, and TCI, support for climate adaptation, disaster risk reduction, recovery is a centerpiece. Most recently in Jamaica, following Beryl, UNDP's support for livelihoods recovery of 54 enterprises led by women and persons with disabilities, including grants for restoration of small business, as well as gender-sensitive, climate-smart disaster capacity development and training. Over the years, we've also extended similar support to MSMEs in the Bahamas and TCI. Our post-Hurricane Dorian package of intervention in the Bahamas, for example, bolstered through UNDP grant allocations, supported new regulatory frameworks, strategies that went through cabinet, that supported housing, building, and damage assessments for more than 4,000 structures in the Bahamas. Marine debris studies and cleanups, cash for work programs, targeting the poorest and impacted residents in those hotspots impacted by Dorian. We also followed it up with support for multi-purpose climate resilient shelters, specifically in Abaco, to withstand 200 miles per hour winds. So new structures in Abaco that's emerged in recent times. Supported by the government of India and UNDP, this model stands as a good one that's now being replicated across the Bahamas through government domestic finance. I want to commend the government of Jamaica, the Bahamas, for their leadership and dynamism in developing and sustaining fit-for-purpose national disaster governance arrangements, and no less our partners in Cayman, Bermuda, and TCI for their examples as well on being resilient to increasingly severe hurricanes. Your example models the kind of leadership that is critical for shaping resilient economies, and we look forward to your leadership in strengthening support for MSMEs going forward. On a final note, to further advance our support, UNDP, together with the UN Disaster Agency, UNDRR, together with UNICEF, together with the World Food Programme, and the invaluable support, of course, of the European Union, are soon launching together a new DRR program for the Caribbean that'll have important region-wide results, but also dedicated country grants, for example, of up to $500,000 here in Jamaica. And this overall program will be focusing on, among other things, capacity development to scale up policy, institutional, and financing mechanisms for resilient recovery, options for embracing loss and damage finance, and other policies around loss and damage can be a key outcome of this new cooperation. As SIDS in the Caribbean, you're well positioned and qualified to model a resilient future where no one is left behind, one that embraces new financing options, technology, and governance solutions. It's clear that resilience must become our first line of defense against unpredictable weather patterns and the means by which we accelerate recovery from the losses and damage of increasing climate crisis. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Code, for bringing our, yes, that deserves a round of applause. Thank you so much, Mr. Code, for bringing our attention to the importance of the MSME sector. Tiny but mighty, and too important to fail. Those were the watchwords for us in that particular presentation, and also for highlighting the importance of deep diving into loss and damage. Loss and damage is a big thing now globally, and we have even the Loss and Damage Fund being established. So understanding the extent and scale of impact of when we're being impacted by a natural disaster is very important as we plan the way forward. So we want to thank you for that, for those remarks. And now we invite our keynote speaker. She is Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development, Marcia Henry Martin, and the most senior accounting officer for that ministry who holds a leading role in hurricane preparedness, management, and recovery. Ms. Martin, Ms. Henry Martin, please go ahead.
Moderator, Ms. Gillian Scott, good morning to you. Let me stand on the order you have established so far, but I also want to recognize Mr. Kude. I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly, sir. We had the honor of meeting, I believe, earlier this year or late last year when you paid a courtesy call on us. So let me greet you and your team that is present here this morning. I also want to acknowledge all our distinguished guests from our respective agencies and the private sector and those who are watching online who have joined us from our sister islands in the Bahamas, I believe. I'm not sure if there are any other members from the northwestern subregion of the Caribbean. I feel like I've lost some sound there. Are you hearing me properly? Great. I also want to acknowledge my support team that is with me today, the Director General Acting, Mr. Richard Thompson, and the Acting Director General, the Acting Deputy Director General, Ms. Michelle Edwards, and of course, my own Senior Director, Mr. Patrick Watson, who has just returned from the global platform in Switzerland and is yet to give me a detailed brief as to what took place. So I have exposed you, Mr. Watson. It's indeed a pleasure for me to be here with you today, and I'm indeed humbled. I also, at this point, want to indicate that I really wasn't slated to be keynote speaker, but they say when something drop off head, it drop on shoulder. I don't know if you know that saying in Jamaica. That means when the minister is not able to be present, he draws on the sole accounting officer to be present. So it has dropped off the head and has dropped on the shoulder. So mine is it to carry today. I came prepared to give some brief remarks, but I've however learned that I'm being the keynote speaker. Nevertheless, I came prepared to have an interactive session moderator, and I'm happy that our sisters were able or have been able to join us from the Bahamas. Just to note, I'm not sure who are the representatives from Bahamas, but we had a delegation from Bahamas, I believe, 2023 or early 2024. I don't want to misquote myself in respect of the date. And we had a very good exchange at the time, and we were intended on paying back the courtesy to Bahamas. So Bahamas, if you're out there listening, we still intend on visiting you, and we still remember our dialogue that we had recently surrounding disaster risk reduction, disaster management, and the legislative framework that Jamaica has been implemented through well, it's not so new anymore, but for us it is still somewhat new, the approved Disaster Risk Management Act of 2015. And so it is indeed a pleasure for me to be here. I want to say I wasn't seeing the pictures so much of the 3-minute video. However, I listened and I believe it was quite a very effective video, and automatically I could see the theme that was being carried, that of women in post-disaster situations and women that are physically challenged in post-disaster situations. I, however, quickly noted that I wasn't sure we were carrying the theme of youth in post-disaster situations. And some of the experiences I had post-Beryl included one young chicken farmer who indicated he had lost. He was just starting out. He had lost his brood. And I also saw other young people who would have been seeking to do small businesses. So these are young persons who might have left Hart or finished university, different types of small businesses that they would have been pursuing. And I'm trying to recall if it was on the TV, I had seen one lady who was doing hut construction. So there are some unique businesses out there that we picked up. I'm sure Mr. Thompson, when he speaks, if he's given that opportunity to do a presentation, he told me he may be asked to do a presentation today. I'm not sure if he will be able to speak to the details of it. But I just wanted to highlight those areas because I felt that where we are now in this space at this time, we certainly have to underscore young people, young entrepreneurs, because they are tomorrow's future and they have been impacted in some unique ways. And to make it even more interesting, we could think about young female entrepreneurs. So there are different categories that you could easily identify and try to understand what that atmosphere is like for them. I noticed in your presentation that you indicated the opportunities that exist for grant support and the partnerships that may be pursued. Of course, we welcome these partnerships, and we really want to say thank you in advance, not in anticipation of an event, but should there be an event, that we will be disaster resilient. Did I get that right, moderator? Yes. So I really liked the play on the word, not disaster resilience, but a declaration of being disaster resilient. And if we don't leave anything, if we forget anything here today, let us not forget that, because it's a declaration in the positive, which means even if we're impacted, we will not be so much affected that we cannot carry on as how we were before, and perhaps even better. And so, whilst I've set out all of that, I had indicated what has dropped off head has now fallen on shoulder. Our minister, Honorable Desmond McKenzie, has really sent his apologies. He, in fact, had another schedule today out in St. Mary, treating with the rededication of the renovation of the Anotta Bay Fire Station. And you might have read recently, too, that over $200 million were spent in coastal retrofitting for that area, which was also a disaster resilience. I got that right? Technology for the coastal area. But still, if you read the papers yesterday, so I am not one who's going to be talking from a paper today. I want to talk about reality. So just bear with me. It's a conversation. So I don't remember if it was yesterday's paper or last week, I saw it where some communities were still saying, or members were still saying, despite the work, how they still felt a little vulnerable. Did we see that article in the Gleaner, I believe it was yesterday, and I felt that the work is never done because you'll do so much, but there are still some who you may not reach immediately. And so I think I heard about an action plan somewhere in the presentation. That action plan, of course, must be able to look on the short term, medium term, and long term initiatives that would be pursued or could be pursued. And so those residents who might have been indicating that they are still feeling somewhat threatened or their businesses might come under threat, we still would have to design mechanisms for those kind of persons. So I can speak to my personal situation here in Jamaica. I'm not sure how it is in the Bahamas, but of course, anywhere you go as a small island state right now in the Caribbean, I believe will have similar characteristics. So what I have described for Anata Bay and what we have recently done and what we are now picking up could be applied for any coastal town or village. You might have also seen us last week when we had the National Disaster Risk Management Council meeting chaired by Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, who is also the chairman, where he spent a bit of time talking about the various aspects of preparedness, mitigation, and response to include utilities and so on, and how to support the agricultural sector. And in your presentation, you spoke about tourism and agriculture, which would be our main economic sectors in this sense. And so as I thought about it, I thought that even in tourism, you have so many subsectors to consider, and in agriculture, so many subsectors as well to include agro-processing and so on. And so I don't know that it's a work that can be done immediately, as I said before, but will require a kind of action plan that recognizes what can be done now, midterm, and over a longer term. That council meeting also brought various players together, including the private sector. And what this is saying to us, Mr. Thompson, is that we have to be a little bit more diverse and not consider the usual private sector partners that we normally do, but to consider those partners who we would not normally consider and begin to engage and ensure that we have a holistic approach. I also want to underscore that Jamaica, through CDEMA, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, is responsible for this sub-region, which includes Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, and the Cayman Islands, and Haiti. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And so heavy is the head that wears the crown. We have a lot to think about, and the partnerships that may be forged for this neck of the woods to ensure that we are able to not just be resilient, but if we should be impacted by any event, and I'm not just talking about a hurricane now, but any kind of event. And I remember last week I mentioned the last big shake we had. I was in conference room at the ministry, and the table was sufficient enough to allow me and another officer to fit under. And I remember I said to the audience, I wondered whether if the building actually came down, if we would have enough oxygen space to breathe until we are found and rescued. And that said to me, we must always have consideration between the time of an impact and the time of being receiving response or being rescued, and the time of how quickly you are able to get persons back on their feet. So some persons or some situations, you might be able to respond immediately. Some persons, like suppose I was under that table for, say, a day, what would have happened to my area, wherein I am the accounting officer, and I am not being able to be recovered? What is the continuity in place and things like that? And we should not see these thoughts as pertinent to high-level ministries or to high-level stakeholders, but to small businesses. It's very important. I grew up in a background where my own father had a small business, and I remember in Hurricane Gilbert, we lived very close to the sea. And that day, I remember it was the first I saw the waves reached so high. And so we packed up and got ready to evacuate because we felt this was it. But interestingly, we were on high ground, but the workshop was in a little descent. You're following me? So even if the sea came over, there would have been no way that the sea would have impacted that small business. But guess what? Based on where it was, there was a gully to the north that brought down flood water that we had never seen before. To be honest, I was happy about it because afterwards I thought I was really enjoying a river because I was young. But it really wasn't a river. It was flood waters. But that water swept through the workshop. And I remember we had to go and search for every piece of zinc to replace it because this was our bread and butter. So I'm just putting it in this context for us to understand the individual realities of our stakeholders and what different event means for them in their particular circumstance. Because my circumstance might not be yours. It might not be that gentleman's over there. It might not be the case of a small business owner in the Bahamas. So we have to understand the unique characteristics of these businesses, their locations, and their vulnerabilities. Okay? And these are some of the things I would like to take to the table, because as a local government ministry with responsibility for local communities, one of our mantra is, just as we have it internationally, we're not leaving anybody behind, but every community matters, every district matters, every individual in every community in every district matters, and their quality of life must always be held at the forefront. And whatever it is that they do to sustain themselves is what we should nurture, so long as it is a legal approach to sustaining themselves. I believe that deserves a round of applause. Yes. That being said, I am charging my own team when we go back to review our own approaches, Mr. Watson. We are at the point of preparing, as you may be aware, the comprehensive disaster risk policy was tabled in Parliament, I believe 2 years ago, and we're seeking to have that finalized. We have now completed the second round of the consultations, and we're preparing to go back to the decision makers, which would be the cabinet, and then to Parliament, to ensure that we actually have all our bases covered. And so if that document does not or did not consider sufficiently small and medium-sized enterprises, we must step back a bit and ensure that that document is sufficiently covering it. And there are other areas that we can examine to ensure that we meet the people where they are. Okay, team? I'm not sure who is here from the PIOJ, but as I spoke with Mr. Thompson this morning, I said to him, I would feel even more confident if I'm sure someone from PIOJ will be here to make sure we have the statistics right. And then I said to him, I hope you don't quote anything that PIOJ didn't tell you. And he said to me, well, Pierce, I have got the the report on the loss and damage report from PIOJ, which he is reviewing. So I expect he will take to the table those findings. All in all, I could go on and on and on, but I will not do that to you today, not because I am the keynote speaker. Thank you for listening to me. I hope my brief comments have really touched a chord and that you will consider it as we move forward. And by the way, I did not acknowledge the media. I never like to not acknowledge the media. They are my friends. When they see me coming, they say, here comes the PS. Good day, gentlemen, and all those out there in media land. Good morning to you. Have a blessed day.
Thank you so much. Not quite a keynote, but I would say better than a keynote. Thank you so much, PS, for starting the conversation. I thought that was fitting as we segue into our fireside chats, that you start us off on a conversation that had a lot of weighty points that you have made. You talked about the importance of ensuring that we're including youth and taking into account the various disaster situations that youth would be in, that they're key consideration, and that they're in different types of businesses and they're in need of guidance, mentorship, and resources. You also reminded us of diversifying our approach to the private sector, not just the traditional private sector partners, but moving on to other partners who are not necessarily the traditional set. The practical guidance, which takes into account the different realities of our audiences. And we especially like the part of integrating considerations for MSMEs in existing policy and strategies. We really, really embrace that, and we thank you so much for sharing with us. Thank you, and please convey our best wishes to the rest of your team.
I will, thank you.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have 3 brief fireside chats coming up. We're coming up to the meat of the matter. But before we go there, we want to remind everyone that the hashtag for today's event is Hurricane Resilient with a T. We are live from UNDP 1-3 Lady Musgrave Road, and we are live on the UNDP and JIS social media platforms, namely YouTube and Facebook. We invite everyone, share the live, like, comment, take your photos, and share using the hashtag Hurricane Resilient. We now thank Mr. Code and the PS and ask you to take your seat elsewhere. And in the time being, as we prepare for Fireside 1, we would like to invite the following persons to join us. In the front here, we'd like to invite Mr. Thompson. You are doing Fireside 1. Marina Young and Jasmine Hyde. Could you please join us in the time being? And you will sit on this side to join us. Can perhaps take their seats. Yes. Thank you. If you're joining us for the first time, we are live from 1-3 Lady Musgrave. This is Hurricane Ready and Resilient, a special forum on loss and damage for micro, small, and medium enterprises, which is convened by the United Nations Development Programme, the multi-country office here in Kingston, Jamaica. We are putting a spotlight on small business operators and their need for specialized tips and guidance to ensure that they are hurricane ready and prepared, and that in the event of a disaster, that they can recover quickly. We're going to ask for another seat to be placed at the front for Jasmine. Can we have some help to have another seat placed on this side for Miss Jasmine? Well, I'll just scooch over a little bit. This is the time for Fireside Chat 1, where we're going to be talking about some tips. We're going to be focusing more broadly first on business continuity, and then we will move on to generalized tips from Luis Gamara, who is from our UNDP regional hub, and then we'll do a deep dive into agriculture, courtesy of our team from the Rural Agricultural Development Authority. We want to welcome the team here to Hurricane Ready and Resilient. And with our first panel now in place, we ask you to please make welcome Director General Acting for the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, Richard Thompson. Please give him a round of applause. Joining us online on Zoom, I hope he's there, Luis Gamara. He's UNDP Regional Advisor, Team Leader for our Disaster Risk Reduction and Recovery Panama Regional Hub, who's going to come with tips, general tips on hurricane prep and recovery for micro, small, and medium enterprises. On my left, we have Marina Young, Principal Director, Technical Services for the Rural Agriculture Development Authority, RADA. Welcome. Please give her a round of applause. And we have Jasmine Hyde, Director, Eastern Zone, Rural Agricultural Development Authority, commonly known as RADA. I think we'll leave it at RADA for now. And they will have great advice for us on crops and livestock farmers. All right. Thank you so much, team. And now we go first to Mr. Thompson, who is focusing especially on business continuity, a very important consideration for small business operators who have been impacted by disaster. How do you continue your operations if you have been hit? What do you do? What are some of the things you need to bear in mind even before disaster strikes? We're going to be hearing this and some more from Mr. Thompson as we now engage him in fireside chat number 1.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, moderator. Good morning, everyone. You're hearing me well? Yes, ma'am. A special morning to my permanent secretary, who called out Mr. Watson and gave us some charge to look at additional activities around small, medium-sized, and micro enterprises. I'll be looking quickly at disaster risk recovery and continuity planning. And the discussion this morning is around small businesses. So any aspect as it relates to disaster risk recovery and continuity planning can look at the processes are not much different in terms of large businesses and medium and small and micro enterprises. I think one other thing that we have to consider as it relates to small businesses in Jamaica is that it accounts for approximately 97% of businesses in the country in terms of employment, providing nearly 80% of employment for the Jamaican workforce. So you can see how significant it is that we are putting measures in place to protect that sector. So in terms of business continuity planning, it's really a strategy that focuses on or ensures that the business are able to operate or to continue during or after any kind of disruptive event or disruption. And especially in this case, and looking at what happened last year after any kind of natural event such as an hurricane. Concentrating on the procedures in terms of maintaining business function, protecting your assets, safeguarding your overall employment procedures, taking care of your staffing, which is critical because your business cannot operate without staff, and ensuring that there is also communication with your customers. Looking at your overall stakeholder mapping and ensuring that you can be back up and running in a very short time. So I will just run through quickly, not focusing on that. We all know what a hazard is and we all know what a disaster is and our elements in the Caribbean. You heard PS spoke to how closely linked we are in the region and how we share similar vulnerabilities. So in terms of disaster risk recovery and business continuity planning, they are really close in terms of that kind of interwoven nature. And it really enables businesses, as I said before, to anticipate, mitigate against, resolve issues in relation to disasters, and ensuring that the organization can run effectively after a disaster. So it allows for the minimization of downtime, which is critical, and the ability to restore normal function in the shortest possible time. So those are critical elements that has to be considered in terms of disaster risk recovery, right? So recovery planning, and the screen is there, so you can look at the screen. It's really a deliberate process to ensure that the businesses are anticipating, they are mitigating against issues, they are resolving issues regarding the effect of disasters that will impact the business. It also allows for, as I said before, minimizing your downtime. Right, so those are critical function. In terms of small businesses, one of the critical thing, or general business, one of the critical thing is to ensure that you're planning your recovery process. So your disaster risk recovery planning is critical. So your disaster risk recovery planning is designed to ensure that there is continuation of your vital business processes in the event of any disaster occurring. Right, the plan really it provides an effective solution that can be used to recover, and these are your vital business operations within a required time, and set out a framework that is using vital records that are stored offsite. So one other thing that especially for startups, persons might find it difficult to do offsite backup, but it becomes vital, because when you have your critical records, a lot of times businesses, you start your business, you have your business plan, and you have all these things in place, and you have a disaster and it wipes out all of that. You're unable to recover your plans, recover your procedures, your business concept, all these things are gone. And so it becomes critical that you look at your offsite backup, looking at what we call your hot site. So there are three areas. You have hot site, warm site, cold site, as to how you can set up. That allows you to quickly stand up your operation. So your hot site is one where you pull down information. You have your warm site. It has certain equipment, have certain computers. You can go there and plug and play. And then your cold site now is one where there's an empty space. So you just have to go there, take whatever you need to take, and start back your operation. Not everyone is able to do that, but it is something that is critical to look at. One other thing as well that businesses has to pay critical attention to is what is called a single point of failure. So a lot of times businesses, you don't take that into critical account. One other thing that we have noticed for a very long time, and it was highlighted in Beryl, is that energy generation, especially around electricity, is your critical point of failure for a lot of businesses. If you don't have power generation, you really can't operate. Whereas if you are in manufacturing, right? So you have to ensure that you have identified what is your critical point of failure, that single point of failure, and find ways to resolve that. So ensuring that you have power backup, your ability to get back up and running critically. Also analyzing outside of your single point of failure, also analyzing your location. So you're doing a lot of assessment. You're doing your risk profile and your risk analysis to look at your location and see what you're prone to.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So for example, for the micro entrepreneur, somebody who is selling ice cream, what would be their critical single point of failure?
So for someone who is selling ice cream, you need to keep the ice cream frozen. Mm-hmm. So you have to look at now power. That's one. Mm-hmm. So
a lot of SME don't have a generator.
Yeah. Repeat.
A lot of SME
don't have access
to generate,
and they don't have access to what hot, warm, and cold spots.
Yeah, man. I'm saying you don't have access. Hold on, you don't currently have access to it. Mm-hmm. That's a difference. If you currently don't have access to it, you need to ensure that you put that in your planning phase. Mm-hmm. So we understand that it becomes expensive. It becomes expensive in terms of your planning operation. But look at what would happen if so
the little man who sells chicken, mm-hmm, froze all his chicken, Hurricane come, you don't have power for about 3 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever. They don't have a generator system. After they don't have the power, the chicken gets spoiled. I mean, they have to throw it out.
Yeah.
What are the plans are we having in place to ensure that something like that?
That's what I'm saying.
No, well, my challenge with the presentation is that for the SME market, the biggest hurdle without a hurricane is being eligible for financing.
Yeah.
And majority of what
we will get to that. We will get to that in terms of looking at your financing and insurance and all those things. Those are parts and procedures.
But eligibility is the hurdle. So if they're not eligible in non-hurricane situations, when there is a disaster, they need something that's either a grant or they need the recovery that is something easier. I bet you tell them put all them documents on Google for offsite, and then for like a bar, a hairdresser, or a consult. I mean,
just hold on. Remember, you have small, you have medium sizes, and you have your micro businesses. Some persons are able to. So just bear out for a minute and listen to the presentation, please. Just bear out a minute. So some persons are able to do certain things. There are other things that other persons need to do. A small generator to run a fridge is is an investment in your business operation and is a part of protecting your investment. So, all right. I don't know if you were in Jamaica during Gilbert. I've lived through Gilbert. I believe I still have diesel oil in my system from pulling fuel into the generator to ensure that there was power at home. So these are things that you have to ensure that you're investing in. If you don't have power as a small business enterprise, power being your single point of failure, and we're not talking about Beryl, which was a couple of weeks, you're talking about a Gilbert-type event, which is months. What do you think would happen to your investment? And your ability to function
today? They're ineligible for a loan, and they're ineligible for what you're saying.
Your ability to function would be totally wiped out because you have not invested small investment in a generator that can run a fridge. If you, for instance, you are a fisher folk and you have to keep your fish on ice, or you're the ice cream seller, and you have to ensure that the ice cream is frozen in order for you to do it. So it's a small investment in terms of your ability to operate. So in terms of...
So before you go on, Mr. Thompson, we're going to hold the rest of questions for now. We're going to have one hot question at the end of the fireside, and then we open it up to Q&A, where we'll have 15 to 20 minutes to ask our panelists any questions that we want. But I'm glad that you brought that up about the need to plan. A lot that has to do with preparation, and MSME preparedness is really before the event. And so it's important for MSMEs who are online and listening to know that they need to even think about it. That if you're an ice cream vendor or you're a chicken vendor, then it could come a time when loss of power is an issue. What do you do with that? If I do not have the resources to purchase a generator, is there something else I can do? And that is something, so the most critical point of Mr. Thompson's presentation is alerting them that this could be an issue and have them start to think it through. It's very important. How do you do this? So we don't have the resources. What would be the next step after that? Are there other persons I can call on and put on standby? Are there partnerships that I can engage with? So it's very important for us to know that what is that single point of failure and to plan around it.
And also, if you look at that slide there, one of the things that as a business operator, any business that you're doing, large-scale business, small business, medium and micro businesses, you are in a competitive space. So you want to ensure that you're maintaining your competitive advantage. So if someone else has gone to find a way to invest in ensuring that they are able to recover quicker than you, they are going to eat up your market space. So you have lost your competitive advantage to your competitor. So it's part of now looking at your planning process, looking at the market space in which you're operating, and saying, oh, I, Richard Thompson, would be able to ensure that I have a competitive advantage over Patrick Watson. If something should happen where we're all in the same space in a major disaster, but I want my business to be back up and running quickly, how am I now going to be able to ensure that I'm maintaining that? So you have to do these kind of planning, right, to ensuring that you also, as a small business, or any kind of business, you have to ensure that you're protecting your organization's reputation. We look at JPS in terms of a large business operating in that space, and you see what happened to them last year. They have been their reputation has been impacted, right? And if you look at say for instance a Flow and a Digicel operating in the same space, if one is able to be back up and running quicker than the other one, you have lost your competitive advantage. So it's similar for small businesses. Remember, your business operation is not much different. It's just that you are a growing business at a smaller level, right? So the processes are same.
Question for you as a point of clarity to Mr. Thompson. Could it be that a small business person, just as much as they would throw partner to buy a fridge or to buy a stove, would you recommend that they throw partner and make plans to purchase a generator as part of their business continuity planning?
Yes, it's the same way in terms of anyhow you can generate that income in terms of, or that investment income. You look at those processes to say what I have to invest in to ensure that my business can continue in a major disaster. So whatever, but some persons look at it as to say, okay, it might not happen, and the possibility of it happening might happen in the next 10 years. Why should I invest now? Yeah. But if you don't invest, what would happen to your business if you have not invested? When you have gone through all the gamuts to ensure that you can start your business. Remember, starting business, especially in Jamaica, is a difficult task. And also ensuring that your business is maintained. Right, there's a larger percentage of small business, failing in Jamaica than those that succeed.
Richard, would you recommend that a community that are involved in livestock purchase a generator to assist the community?
Yes.
Would you
So
recommend?
for your associations, so like your Pig Growers Association and all those associations within communities. The fisher folk. So part of the thing that you look at as well is in terms of protecting your small businesses is how you can form cooperatives and collaboration to say, okay, fine. What do we need to invest in collaboratively in order for us to protect collaboratively the grouping? Part of it is insurance as well, where you say to persons, pool this kind of pool funding if you have an association to pool for insurance in order to protect your business.
Insurance coverage.
So you get those insurance coverage. We at the large level we have CRIF and all those things, and we are saying at the small level, when you have these association, your agriculture association within communities, pig growers, all these grouping, pool your resources as best as possible to ensure that collectively you are protecting each other. So those are areas as well within your continuity process that we have been saying to businesses to look at and ensuring that you are ultimately protecting your investment. And it becomes part of your emergency response planning procedures. How you plan that out at the outset, and how you're ensuring that you can operationalize that process going forward, right? And that form part of your continuity planning process.
Okay. Can you just take us quickly through the business continuity plan, the elements that the small business has to bear in mind as we are short on time?
All right, so these are what you have to look at. Some of these, you look at what you have to do in your early recovery phase in terms of getting your business back up and running, your if you're employing people, or you look at that human side in terms of ensuring that your staffing is there, that they can come back out to work for you. You look at your economic restoration, what kind of elements you have to put in to ensure your economic restoration. You join a cooperative, register your business. A lot of small farmers are not registered. So because they are not registered, it becomes difficult after a disaster for them to get grants coming out of RADA and the Ministry of Agriculture. But when you say to a lot of them, register, they say, oh boy, if I register, no, the tax man going to come and me have to go pay a tax and government going to know my business and all of them stuff. So these are some of the things now in terms of that aspect where you find persons are unable because, one, they are not registered. And not being registered, you are not able to garner a lot of the benefits from the state, if needs be, in terms of your recovery process.
I'll give you the hot question at the end of this panel. Please, because we have 3 more presentations and then 2 more panels. Hold it. We're going to give SBAJ the hot question at the end of this panel, and then at Q&A we open it to the field. All right.
Is ODPM provide financial support to micro, small, and medium sized?
No, we don't. It dependent within the whole aspect of micro businesses. It dependent on the sector that which you operate in.
Okay.
So if you're small farmers, you get small grants from through the probably Ministry of Agriculture, RADA, and all those things. If you're operating, and if you're in another sector, there are other elements that you can get those small grants. So in terms of
what support your organization gives,
so a lot of it is looking at like this. What you have to do in terms of your continuity process. What elements you have to put in place to ensure that your business is able to continue and to operate and assist if you have to now develop your plan, or you now have to develop your plans. We have done work with the tourism sector. Remember, you have large hoteliers, but you also have very small hoteliers. So you ensure that we are mainstreaming disaster risk management in the tourism sector to ensure that we are protecting those small tourists or small hoteliers and the Airbnb and those operations to ensure that they can operate after a major disaster. So you mainstream risk management in that sector. You help them in terms of plan writing. You give them plan strategies as to what they have to do to ensure that they can function. And ensuring that your vendor support is critical, and you can access that kind of process to ensure that your business can survive after anything major. I'll stop.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Thompson. That was very interesting. I think that the single point of failure generated quite a bit of conversation, and we learned quite a bit from that. We learned that it is possible to identify the single point of failure based on what you do. That for the ice cream vendor, of course, it would be electricity to keep goods frozen. For the chicken farmer, same thing. For the farmer, it may be something else entirely, and we'll hear more from Radha shortly. We talked about the potential of purchasing a generator as a cooperative, coming together as a possibility. And we heard about pooling funds. We heard also about throwing partner, just as you would for a refrigerator or as you would for a stove for your business, that you bear that in mind as a part of the cost of business continuity. So I want to thank you once again, Mr. Thompson, for that. And we are now asking Luis Gamara. GIS team, do we have Luis Gamara online to do his presentation? So we're going to hand over now to Mr. Gamara, who will share with us some general tips for hurricane prep and recovery for micro, small, and medium enterprises. Are you there, Luis? Welcome.
I am here with you, Gillian. Can you hear me well?
We're hearing you perfectly. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you very much, Gillian and Kishan, UNDP President Representative, for this invitation and the opportunity to share some general tips for disaster preparedness, disaster recovery, specifically for micro and small medium enterprises based on the initiatives that UNDP is implementing across the region. I don't know, Gillian, if you got my presentation, or if I can share it. It's just a few tips.
Yes. I'm sure the Team JIS, can you enable him to share his presentation? He should be. He's a panelist.
Let me go. So can you see it?
And we are seeing you. Yes.
In presentation mode?
Yes, we are.
So thank you. Thank you again. So so I have summarized these tips according to your questions, Gillian, and starting maybe with those for disaster preparedness, and to see how we can strengthen our capacities to resist and absorb the impact of hurricanes, but actually, as Madame Pies mentioned, of any type of disaster. But I would like to start with a number 0, maybe tip, and it's based in the experience that we have as UNDP and we as a development agency. We are much more focused on development, and in disaster risk management on the previous disaster prevention. And when we talk about disaster prevention, it's how to reduce the existing risks and how to prevent the configuration of new risks. And for doing that, we need to implement some mitigation of the exposure and vulnerability conditions. So I would like to mention that as a number 0 tip. So then both the government association of micro, small, medium enterprises, but also each of the entrepreneurs can monitor and analyze the risks, understanding what are the processes that are generating those risks, and sharing also that information. And when we talk about reducing vulnerability, we're talking about the implementation of building codes, ensuring that that our infrastructure, our assets are meeting safety standards and are resilient then to any type of hazards. We're also talking about increasing the awareness and the sensitization of entrepreneurs and governments, but also to strengthen social protection, implementing both insurance, but also the safety nets that were mentioned during the discussion with Mr. Thompson. So how we can create financial mechanisms to address the, in this case, vulnerability reduction for micro and small medium enterprises, enhance disaster risk financing, and making it easier for these micro entrepreneurs to access to those supports. And talking about the reduction of exposure, we need to then to talk about land use planning, and then the provision of safe land for our investments. But also we're talking about the diversification sometimes of the business, of our business models, geographically, economically, and to strengthen the supply chains in all their different parts of those systems to reduce the dependency on single suppliers or locations. So it's good to start with that 0 tip to reduce the existing risks, and then to prevent that impact of any type of event. If it happens, and that is specifically to your questions, Gillian, about disaster preparedness. When we talk about disaster preparedness, then as a micro and a small, medium enterprise, we need to develop the business continuity plan that was mentioned by Mr. Thompson, including then the risk assessments, having an updated emergency contact list, backup systems, as was mentioned, for data and for operations, crisis communications and protocols, and we discussed this business continuity planning in our workshop last year to enhance the capacities for moving this forward. Number two, to strengthen also financial resilience, and this was like one of the key issues raised in the previous discussion. But before, we need to establish then emergency funds and explore maybe some de-risking mechanisms to improve the access then to financing, and especially then for women maybe led enterprises, for informal enterprises, and this can have like different maybe modalities. And as UNDP, for instance, we work in programs to support providing technical assistance, to provide supplies, to provide some seed funds to entrepreneurs after a disaster, just to reactivate their economic activities. So this is something that if we can do it before, then it will operate much more quicker after a disaster. Number three, to invest in capacity building, and this is very, very important for different levels, for governments, also for association of entrepreneurs, but then also for each of the association members. So that includes the owners, but also the employees. So then for them to enhance their capacities in their business development organization, in disaster preparedness, obviously also in inclusive recovery and more resilient strategy. Number four, to leverage digital tools and innovations. That is key, and now more and more we can use digital tools to spread a bit the information, but also to stay like in touch and communicated within our early warning systems at community level, at regional level, at national level, just to ensure that our access to markets and that the operations continue. And number five was mentioned by Mr. Thompson as well, the engagement with local and regional networks. And it's important to collaborate then with public, private, community actors to share resources and also to organize and to make joint plan between the different entrepreneurs, for instance, that can complement their resources in case something happens, to share knowledge and support systems in case required. That means to foster then partnerships between SMEs, governments, financial institutions, and any other stakeholder. Moving then to your second question, and that is related then to the post-disaster, and as UNDP, we don't work in the humanitarian assistance, but we work in recovery, and that means for micro and small medium enterprises to supporting the reactivation of their economic activities. And the maybe number 0 tip is to ensure during that process an inclusive building back better recovery. And this building back better, this BBB, is a term that is being used for recovery 20 years now after the tsunami in Indonesia. But it's what it entails is that the need to transform the risks that were before. So we need to recover in a more resilient and sustainable manner, reducing then the vulnerabilities. So for doing that, we need to work in and I would like to recall also Madame P.S. Recommendations to work in a short but also mid and long-term perspective. So we need to start like very quickly from the very beginning deploying early recovery measures, and it's important to start even after the first days after the disaster, to promote the restarting of the local economies, and that includes restoring essential services, supporting the micro and small medium enterprises with maybe like emergency employment, the rehabilitation of community infrastructure that will provide the services for these businesses to reactivate. But then also to provide the target financial support, and this is key. And as I mentioned, it could come like in different type of modalities, from credits or loans, but also grants, revolving funds mechanisms to help the entrepreneurs to rebuild their businesses. As mentioned, this can come also with technical assistance and also like to help like the marketing of their businesses in these new conditions. Number 3, also to update then the business continuity plan to reflect the new realities. We need to adjust the BCP that we have prepared in advance, but to update it in for this new situation. And we have worked like before with CARICHAM a BCP methodology for business continuity planning. So we need to use this BCP to adjust them for this post-disaster situation. Accelerate then digital transformation. We can use also recovery as an opportunity to innovate also with some key and new maybe mechanisms. Digital tools can help the SMEs with some pivot operations to reach new markets, to maintain the continuity of their operations. Number 5 is very, very important, and it's related to promoting inclusive and gender-responsive recovery. Many times, the women-led businesses doesn't comply with all the requirements for loans or credits, and are mostly within the informal sector. So we need to maybe strategize some key initiatives that will respond to those needs. But also, when thinking about a gender-responsive recovery, we need to think about the caring systems that can then help women to have the time to reactivate their business. So, because normally they also have the role to take care of children and the elders and the community. So if we can provide that support to those women entrepreneurs, they will be in the capacity to reactivate their businesses in a more resilient and prompt manner. Number 6, again, the coordination with multi-stakeholders. And in recovery, then it's key that the entrepreneurs and their associations participate in all the policy making to express their needs, but also to help the local governments and national governments to design and define key strategies that address those needs. So it's important that they can also participate in the recovery, policy making, planning, programming, but also in the definition of financial mechanisms. And number 7, and it was mentioned also by P.S. Marshall, is also important to seek mentorship and to train the entrepreneurs to adapt to market changes, and especially after a disaster. So then to empower these micro and small medium enterprises to understand manage risks, to learn from that experience, and to build building back measures along the recovery process, but then also after that, just to ensure that their businesses are sustainable. So these are my key tips, Gillian, for disaster preparedness and disaster recovery. But just would like to emphasize the need of prevent and enhance the capacities before to resist in a better way the impact of any disaster. So to work more in prevention. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luis. Very comprehensive presentation, very practical tips offered. Common theme so far is that the extent of your recovery is based on how you prepare, what you do beforehand. So I want to thank you, want to thank Mr. Thompson for setting the stage for us to deep dive now into farming and agriculture, a very important subsector, or I should say major sector, that is heavily impacted by hurricanes. You know, I can't think of any other sector that will be as exposed to hurricane damage than the agricultural sector. We want to thank the team from the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, namely Marina Young, Principal Director, Technical Services, and Jasmine Hyde, Director, Eastern Zone for RADA. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to start with them by asking first, Marina, are you first? As we contemplate that small farms are particularly vulnerable to hurricane damage, is there a trend in terms of the type of farms damaged? And if so, what is that trend and why? In about 30 seconds.
Good morning, colleagues. Agriculture sector is critical for the well-being and food security of the country, and we know that from 23-24, the agriculture sector contributed between 8 to 7.7, 7.6% to GDP. So therefore, we are very serious at the Rural Agriculture Development Authority and identifying building farmers' preparedness and resilience as one of our most critical strategic goals. So it's very important to start from the national infrastructure, and I think it's very important to recognize that we are very fortunate that Jamaica has a very strong and functional disaster risk management framework led by Office of Disaster and Preparedness Management. Under that particular framework, the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining responsible for the agriculture disaster risk management. And similarly, under framework, the Rural Agriculture Development Authority, which I'm going to call RADA because it's a more familiar name, locally is directly responsible for the leading agriculture disaster risk management and building resilient sector. So it's very important to recognize that currently, based on the agriculture business information database owned and operated by RADA, we do have over 260,000 farmers registered in Jamaica. And we know that many, over 260,000, to be exactly 268,000 plus farmers, and we know that we keep registering. So, but statistics is showing that over 90% of registered farmers are very small enterprises, and they are under 5 hectares. So if you do simple maths, we do have basically over 230,000 small farms operating in Jamaica.
How many of those farmers have been registered?
The total number of farmers registered with RADA, it's 268 plus thousand, all right? So it is very important that we recognize that because of the geographical distribution and operation of the farms, we deal with a high level of vulnerability. Yes, correct. Correct. So just to explain, we have 3 categories of farmers, small up to 5 hectares, Medium sizes, it's from 5 to 20 hectares, and over 20 hectares we consider to be large. Maybe to our international partners, those numbers are very small. For Jamaica, that is what our classification is, and we know that majority of agriculture productions come from small farms, which is over 90% of total registered farmer population. So we know that because of the many farms in Jamaica located in a hilly terrains, we still have a high risk of vulnerability to the landslides, to the floods, and therefore we are focusing very seriously on preparing farmers, especially at the beginning of the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season, to preparing farmers, to providing them with a training, sensitizations, presence in the social media, and directly face-to-face to share major tips for the preparedness. I remember preparedness is better than cure, and I know that over the years we're doing better, but considering the number of the small farmers in very vulnerable areas, we still have to do a lot of work.
Before we get into the tips, Ms. Young, can you just tell us, because I want to have a sense of the types of farms that tend to be damaged. You surely have collated quite a bit of data over the years and noticed some trends and patterns. Who tends to be damaged? What does the data show?
The data is showing two different type of damages. In a hilly side terrains, it's basically all of the crops, and it is mostly due to oversaturation of the soil due to the moisture. That is one. When you have entire hillsides basically along with the crops sliding down and farmers losing the crops. We do have wind damage, and especially in the hilly terrains, if it is a hurricane or it is just a storm, or sometimes we do not have even hurricane, but we have a freak storm. So the wind damage is pretty common, and you remember Jamaica love bananas and plantains. This industry is very important to us, and we do have knowledge that those farmers are very vulnerable. I will give you an example. The average wind of approximately 50 to 60 kilometers per hour can significantly damage bananas and plantain. But if the wind goes to 90 to 100 kilometers, it is total destruction. And I will give you a part of what happened during the last year when we had a Hurricane Beryl. Just between 2004 and 2008, we had 5 major storms. That's where our banana industry gets significant wipeout. Now, coming back to your questions, it's a variety of the crops. It depends where the impact been. We know that traditionally, although things changing, our eastern parishes would have a more often exposure to the natural disasters like storms, hurricanes, and floods. However, the last year, Beryl and Raphael following to that shown that the dynamics changing. So therefore, it's very important for the farmers, any size of farmers, to make sure that they are doing basic preparations. And the basic preparations are simple. Sometimes it will cost you a little bit additional resources, but it is something what our farmers are aware is just we as adults, we have not only to know what to do, but actually practice it. And that is our, how we call, major role as extension entities, is not only to teach, to show, and but convince you to practice practices in terms of building resilient farms and
this is where for us the rubber hits the road. So please go ahead and share with us some of the tips, starting, for example, with how they can reduce their risk and exposure to hurricanes.
So we're talking about preparedness for the Atlantic hurricane season, and there are very specific tips. First of all, I would like to emphasize on something that we do not hear much, but fortunately, again, Jamaica is the country which has access to the agriculture insurance. So we do have a parametric insurance products which is available from the Grace Kennedy, where the farmers can buy, I'm talking about crop, livestock, and fisher folks can access pretty good packages for the 3 risks, which is drought, wind, and flood. So this is very important because it will give you quick access to the cash if farmer is entitled to the payment. So quick inflow of the cash can help you to restart your farming activities. Also, Banana Board currently operate Banana Catastrophe Fund, and farmers needs to make efforts to make that investments in order to reduce their vulnerabilities. I also encouraging, as a representative of the extension arm of the ministry, to register with RADA, and it was already mentioned, I just re-emphasizing, because once you register it, you are on our radar, and once the damage is reported and assessed, the farmers who are registered would have a first preference if any support in terms of inputs being provided. It's very, very important. For farmers who already registered, we would like to ask them to contact their extension officers to update their production figures, because it's very important to have idea what livestock count or what your crops growing before onset of hurricane season, so assessment could be much more easier in terms of damages.
One of these farmers that is not registered, small farmers that are not registered, neither with RADA, nor the ministry, nor with companies. There are farmers like that, you know.
All right, so it's a good question. Yes, hundreds. Correct.
My vice president is it's a former Senator Norman Grant is a former president of JS, and we are planning a one-day conference at the National Conference Center to help some of these farmers. I think it's over 70 farmers. Help them with their registration, their TRN, who we know is not registered. So is there any plans for these farmers who are unregistered that and so we can help them if an hurricane arrives?
I just want to make clear that...
Yeah, but before we go there, I would like to for you to repose that question during the hot question time, and then ask Ms. Young to just continue with the tips, because we have MSME farmers online who are with bated breath waiting on that, and I know they also want to hear about that. But let her just finish the tips first, and then we will ask you to pose that question during hot question. All right?
Thank you very much. Just to make sure that our colleagues is very satisfied, the Rural Agriculture Development Authority and the Ministry of Agriculture, we do provide services to all of the farmers, those registered or non, but we can have a discussion what are the benefits to be registered. There are. So we continue with the tips. Very important that at this particular stage, before we in an emergency period, farmers check their surroundings, especially for example, for a risk of the electrical wires being in very unsafe situation. We also asking farmers to look at all of the trees, not only fruit trees, but any tree, and if there are particular twigs or limbs needs to be removed to secure that there is no prevent the damage to any farm infrastructure, life, or animals. That needs to be done now, and we usually training the farmers how to do pruning, how to do basically trimming of the trees. The services, the tools and equipment needs to be checked now, because you will need that equipment after the events of hurricane. Very strongly recommending that, especially banana and plantain farmers, you need to keep good control of your nematodes, root nematodes, and also prop your banana so to improve the anchorage of the plant. So in event of the wind, you are not losing your plants. Very important that farmers needs to either cut or either to clear the drains in the farms or around the animal and farm infrastructure, and also clear the waterways to facilitate, to prevent flooding on the farm. We also advising farmers that from now you stock with the basic quantities of fungicides and insecticides, because it is very, very likely that during the event of the hurricane associated with rain, sometimes not only winds but rains, your crops, which are very susceptible to bacterial and fungal diseases, will have to be treated right after the passage of the hurricane. We're also emphasizing that you have a small stock of herbicides, because during the prolonged rainfall and wetness, the weeds tend to overpower the fields and therefore create additional risk for the pest and diseases for your crops. Very, very smart way if the farmers from now would prepare their seedling trays, potting mix, and a stock of the seeds. So if in event of any disaster, it could be hurricane, it could be a drought, it could be a flood, they can actually quickly restart seedling production. And seedling production is very important because it has advantage versus the direct seed planting during recovery process, because when you're using the seedlings, you usually tend to have a good quality plant, and because they're at the seedling stage, you're going to reduce the crop cycle, so you're going to harvest your crop much sooner.
Where should they put those seedlings?
Usually farmers would have a basic structure. Some of the farmers have nurseries. Some of the farmers create a basic structure where they're growing, like a little shed house, where they're growing their seedlings, or they're purchasing from commercial nurseries, who also usually consider those type of preparations. So, and special advisory to greenhouse farmers, because we are promoting that farmers invest in the plastic cover with overlocking devices. So in the events of the hurricane or storm, you can simply basically remove the plastic, save it for reuse. And also we advising that in event of then definitely hurricane or high winds about to approach, that your greenhouse plants being placed flat on the ground, because remember in the greenhouses the plants usually with undeterminate growth like tomatoes and cucumbers, so you place them on the ground, cover with a plastic, and put a twine or rope to make sure that it's fixed. So immediately after a passage of the disaster, you can actually restart your farming right away. And again, I'm re-emphasizing that it is from now farmers have to make plans for establishing the protected seedling production centers. We call it could be very simple in a farm, it could be sophisticated, but the seedlings is very something important for you to come back to replant and to go back to the quick return to your production and sustain your livelihood. So at this point, I would like to pass baton to my colleague. She is a person on the ground who works with the farmers directly, and she will share some tips for the livestock farmers.
Please.
Is there a...
excuse me. I'm so sorry. I have to maintain a bit of order because we have a lot of people here who are time constrained. We are already over time. We are going to allot. Remember, I told you we have one hot question, we call it, at the end of the fireside, this fireside chat. We're going to allot this to you. And then at the end of the event, we're going to have a full 15 to 20 minutes where you can ask questions overall. So I'm going to ask you to hold on to that question, write it down, and I'm going to allow you to pose it when they finish their presentations. Okay? Thank you so much. Go ahead.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I will be doing the practical tips as it relates to livestock production. The first one is to ensure that you keep all your fencing, gates, and other enclosures in good repair throughout the year. So if they need to mend, you need to ensure that you do so. All right. The second one is to ensure that you have a livestock disaster kit, or what will be also known as a first aid kit, that is in case of any injury to any of your livestock. Plan a flood-free evacuation route, just as us as humans will plan an evacuation route in case of flooding. You also need to plan an evacuation route for your livestock as well, especially for your large livestock. And if this is not possible, ensure that you untie your animals out in the pasture so that they are able to move to higher grounds. For your housing, for your animal housing, you need to ensure that they are secured. For smaller animals, they can be brought indoor, so maybe your veranda or your garage can become your chicken house. These are for smaller farmers, because for farmers that have larger establishment, this will not work. But for our small farmers, this can be a very good tip. You need to ensure that you have enough feed, hay, and potable water, clean water for your animals for at least 1 week. At least 1 week, because in cases where you're unable to get this feed or potable water, you need to ensure that you have this on hand. For medications and other livestock supplements, farmers need to ensure that you have at least 1 month medication for your livestock. All right, for your inventories, you need to keep a written inventory of all your livestock. Example, with breeding record, expense record, etc., and ensure that you secure these in case of a hurricane, because you don't want the hurricane to occur and then you cannot find these records. So you need to secure them as well. Ensure that all your animals are tagged or they are marked, so you are able to identify them after the hurricane. You don't want your cow to come out of the pasture and at the end of the day you cannot find that cattle. So you need to ensure that they are marked appropriately. And those are some of the major tips as it relates to our livestock farmers.
Thank you so much, Team RADA. We do have one more question for you. We wanted to ask specifically, what kind of services or facilities do you offer to the small farmer, especially to help them reduce their risk and to recover from hurricane damage?
Thank you again. Just to reemphasize that RADA is the entity responsible for the farmer registration. So this is one of the major core services, and it is very important if you're thinking about resilience building. We also offering to some of the parishes, it's varying from parish to parish, that farmers, after the events of natural disaster, can access some of the equipment and tools. For example, we can provide sometimes access to the walk behind some mini tractors, the spray equipment, and some maybe seed planters. It varies from parish to parish, so farmers can find out from their respective parish managers and what services they can obtain. RADA also continue to provide land tillage services, because usually farmers tend to replant right after the disasters. Under the Farm Road Rehabilitation Program, which is implemented also by RADA, we are responsible for repairs and maintenance of the farm roads. So in events of disasters, we do have access to 4 bakus at different parishes. We help to communities to clear the road, to push the drain, to provide access to farmers to the markets. And just to give you an example, under the Beryl recovery, RADA basically provided rehabilitation of farm roads in an amount of $200 million. And it's very important that farmers keep having access to markets. Well, definitely our core service is a technical advice, because when the farmers restart either livestock, either crops, they are guided in terms of planting, crop care, agronomy, but especially in a tropical condition like we are in Jamaica, the pest and diseases management is a challenge, and we do have our plant doctors, extension officers who can guide you with that. Now, we also, many people don't know that RADA do have on-farm water management team, which can help farmers to return to the production by designing and helping you to install and train you how to maintain your drip irrigation system, your water tanks, and generally on-farm water management. Lately, we're doing a lot of microponds, lined microponds, which is part of the recovery efforts. Our land husbandry services can give farmers trainings or tips how basically to make their farms, especially on a hillside, more resilient by establishing contours, waterways, head drains, gully plugs, and so many other land management treatments which will prevent the soil erosion and improve in terms of water conservation. In terms of the farm insurance, again, I'm re-emphasizing there is a very good news for 25-26. The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining allocated $7.5 million to support approximately 5,000 farmers to encourage them to access the parametric insurance. The coverage will cover basic package, so based on which farmers can add, those who want to try. So it's a very strategic move to develop mindset of resilient farms and mindset of the prevention better than cure. All right, so as you said, RADA is there. We are with farmers. Just to let you know that one of the major responsibility of the RADA that immediately after disaster, any disaster, flood, hurricane, drought, we would go into the farmer's field to do damage or loss assessment of crops and livestock. Based on the data, we do have a standard operating procedures in terms of basic, it's called preliminary report, which is used by the minister and the ministry to decide on a support package for recovery. And this is very important because we have to recognize sacrifices of our extension officers when they're working in a very, very difficult situation. I also want to mention that when the farmers are planning assessing their risk, let's say absent of electricity, we have to remember that from Beryl, we learned very serious lesson that you don't have electricity, but you have a vehicle, but you cannot access gas station to purchase the diesel because the roads are blocked. So there must be a risk assessment. It sounds very sophisticated maybe for farmers, but with a simple tool, just sitting down for a couple hours, it's very easy to identify your core risk and try to start to build resilience.
Yes, thank you so much. I think that deserves a round of applause. Excellent presentation. We've learned so much from Team RADA today. One of the things that jumped out at me in terms of support is the allocation for 5,000 farmers. You're hearing that, farmers? 5,000 farmers now have support for parametric insurance. If I were you, I would sign up quick for that.
It's called Weather Protect.
Weather Protect.
Wind, drought, and flood.
Wind, drought, and flood protection.
There we have information. I'm not, it's very important, farmers,
yes,
to get in that mode.
Yes, it's a very important part of your hurricane preparation, and it will also set the stage for your recovery if you're struck by a hurricane. So thank you so much. We've learned so much about just what you do before a hurricane, ensuring that you have your seedlings, ensuring you're doing your risk assessment, ensuring that you're tying up your animals, putting them in a safe spot. There's so much that we have learned today, and we commend this, just, fast track and reverse back to this area to the RADA presentation, if you are a farmer, to hear more about what you can do to save your farm in the event of a disaster. And now, a burning question from the Small Business Association of Jamaica.
Right, thank you. Okay, so I wanted to say that a lot of the recommendations are challenging for our members to implement. And we had actually hoped there would be some kind of resource booklet or handout or website that would have all of the info, meaning not a checklist of what to do, where to go, an idea of the costs, something that has more depth. So in this presentation, there was a lot of what to do, and there were checklists. But then what? You think a hairdresser is going to stop what she's doing to try and pay her rent, to do the research on how to be hurricane ready? No. She needs either a link or some handout that says, if you're saying get a generator, here are 10 sources of generators. If you're saying have a hot, warm, and cold side, here are a list, 10, 15 hot, warm, and cold side. So I'm saying that I find that the reason a lot of our members are hurt during hurricane season is because the powers that be give no proper guide. They give them checklists and tell them what to do. Don't tell them how. Don't tell them where. Don't tell them why. And don't have a how much. So there is so much emptiness and lack of information that people do nothing. And then when the appointed hour comes and the hurricane comes, everybody is running around confused, and it's about clean up. So resilience would start with the powers that be, UN, all the speakers here, giving more depth. So we really expected to come and get a handout so that we could send out emails and give guidance to our members. We can't go back with, we have nothing to go back to our members with. Anybody can watch a YouTube
Not yet.
channel.
Not yet.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I just quickly make a comment? First of all, the presentations were good from Radha and from you, Mr. Thompson.
Yeah.
But I just want to emphasize the fact that in terms of information, where to go, where to start, here is JBDC, Jamaica Business Development Corporation, because we prepare businesses, as you know, for resilience.
Right.
And many of the points that were made, as you know, many of the points that were made this morning in terms of just preparing your business before the disaster itself is DNA that we instill in our businesses when we support on our entrepreneurs and our businesses. One other point I'd like to make, however, is, and it wasn't really brought out by our presenters, is that for a small business, you are the business and the business is you. So it's very important when a disaster strikes, when any kind of shock strikes, that you take care of your own self and your household and your family itself, and you put in place measures to do that. Especially as a micro business, as a startup micro business, you are the business and the business is you. The business will not operate without you. So those safeguards and those preparedness and those insurance facilities, I mean, it's a bit difficult. I'm happy to hear about the insurance facility available for farming, not so much so for other areas of business, Garnet, as you know. But you can protect your own household and yourself in terms of the insurance and that type of thing. So that's a starting point. So I just wanted to add that the point that you start, my good friends from SBAJ, for resilience as an MSME is the capacity building and support that you'll get from JBD, and JBDC stands for Jamaica Business Development Corporation. We're here to provide that level of support. And so thank you so much for the presenters so far.
Thank you so much, Mr. Davis, Chief Executive Officer for Jamaica Business Development Corporation. I do have a comment here now from Marina Young.
Yes, colleagues. Because of my colleague from Jamaica Business Development Center, I just want to share a very interesting experience. Just this week, I got a telephone call from one of your officers, and nearby was a small ruminant farmer. And apparently, the farmer accessing maybe some benefits from your center, And the question was, can RADA assist to this particular farmer to develop standard operating procedures for the hurricane preparedness? And I'm very happy because what happened, although it sounds, again, SOP, a little bit sophisticated, but really and truly, there are simple ways to pre-qualify yourself to be more qualified for whatever grants or funding support available. And I will tell you, just the simple things to developing your very simple risk matrix based on nature of your business, right? And developing your SOP and purchasing for farmers, for example, basic farm insurance, it would make you just a layer above of those who are not there yet. And I think that every year we are here for preparedness, and every year we have to evolve. If something not been done, but there is a beginning, we have to push for that. And Jamaican people are very resilient. I'm not talking about just the farmers are definitely resilient in terms of starting without waiting for nobody. But we have other sectors, and especially creative minds of our small enterprises. So I just want to reemphasize, any small business, including farming, it's a business. And we need to think a little bit different, and we need to get guidance how to make ourselves more pre-qualified, more able, and more capable.
Sure. Yes, I do have a comment as well from Mr. Thompson. Go ahead, sir.
Some time ago, we did some work in terms of mainstreaming disaster risk management in the agricultural sector. ODPEM, RADA, Ministry of Agriculture. So there's a framework with a lot of plan guidelines and everything like that that we can share. Because what we realize is that in terms of food security, it is essential that we are doing extensive work in Jamaica to ensure that we are protecting our farmers and that they have the ability to bounce back quicker. Some years ago, we were having extensive discussion, especially with our banana farmers, in terms of putting in windbreakers. It's kind of expensive, but it works in terms of how you do your spacing in your banana plantation, or you do your even for small banana farmers, or you put different kind of trees in between your bananas and stuff to protect. And part of it as well is how quickly you remove some of those limbs, those leaves from the banana to allow it kind of streamline the trees in order for the wind not to pull it down. A lot of the time, if you do your pruning quickly before, you find that your trees will not come down. They tend to pull from the limbs. So we did a lot of work in terms of mainstreaming. We have done it in the agricultural sector. We have done it for tourism, and we can share those guidelines with you, so you can share it with your members.
Yeah, just a quick one though. After a hurricane come and gone, oftentimes we have shortage of produce. How can we plan to ensure that that doesn't happen? We have to get tomato from abroad, carrots, and so on and so forth. I just want the question to answer.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. All right. What the Ministry of Agriculture is doing right now is to improve on our storage facilities. So we're in the process now of putting in some major, large storage facility. One is in, what's that place in Clarendon? I think one is in one going to be in Manchester. I am having a very senior moment at this time, but I will get those two facilities for you, where the Ministry of Agriculture is putting in the storage. That is one for the agro parks. So in all our agro parks at this time, we at the ministry is basically putting in storage on all those facilities, as well as we encourage farmers to ensure that upon the eve of the hurricane season that they will always have ceilings available. Yeah. So once there's a hurricane, then we go back into production immediately after the hurricane. With Hurricane Beryl as well, what the ministry did was we had distributed several inputs immediately after the hurricane, so we were able to come back into production much faster than years gone by. So it's work in progress, and every year we tend to get better and better.
Can we ensure that we would have enough produce to help the hotel industry, the Jamaican people, during an hurricane?
I think there are certain things that you can mitigate, but you can't prevent. You can't prevent. So if you have, and because I'm a Gilbert baby, I tend to use Gilbert as an example. The good thing for Beryl hit a very small percentage of the island. Not even, if you're looking at Jamaica's size and the impact, probably under 25% of the island was impacted extensively by Beryl. If you're looking at a Gilbert type situation, you are going to have gaps in terms of getting back up and running in terms of your agricultural sector. The fact that we in terms of, we like a lot of fresh produce. So if you're talking about tomatoes, scallion and those things, if those farms are flooded, we don't do a lot of, which we are getting better at, which is agro-processing. But a lot of us would still say, if you go to agro-processing, I want to cut up my tomato to put in my food if I am doing any kind of cooking and all those things. But you will have gaps in those areas for a time. So what Radha is saying, what you want to do is reduce the downtime. Reduce the downtime by ensuring that their farmers have seeds, they have seedlings, they are protecting their livestock as best as possible, protect their poultry. There is persons that have others in terms of yes. So you can get back up and running in quickest possible time. As I say, the quickest possible time, but you will have gaps because that's what disaster is. There's going to be gap in your reconstruction, bringing back agriculture back on stream, everything, once you are impacted severely.
I want to thank everyone for this fireside chat, but it's still sizzling. So I'm going to allow first Romeo Mitchell to make an intervention, followed by, we're clearly beyond the one hot question. So we're into question and answer time, and this is where it ought to be because this is the tips and the guidance. So please go ahead, Romeo.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I just want to play the devil's advocate here and speak for the 70% of the 80% of the small farmers, the very small farmers. And I'm a registered farmer. And after Beryl, I would have contacted my officer. I'd have met with the manager. I'm a Clarendonian. And I still haven't gotten any assistance. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate again for SBAJ. I am a registered member. And the questions you're asking here, I could ask you. Where do I find the information? No, I'm saying, SBAJ, where do I find the information, the hands-on information on SBAJ and what do you offer? I'm a registered member. I still haven't gotten my card, my registry card, okay? So I'm just saying to you, while you want to know these things, you have to fix what you have there.
SBAJ, do you have a question, Mr. President? No, not necessarily as a response, but just the question that you had previous to. Yes, you had a question?
I just want to commend the United Nations and all the stakeholders on this presentation. I think as one of the business leaders, we are better prepared for any eventuality, any hurricane that come. I listened clearly with Radha and all the other stakeholders. ODPM, very good. But what I would like, ODPM, if you had an information kit, you'll prepare one, and so that we can get it, so we can take it to the community and share with all our members
out there.
For the farming sector and tourism that we have done extensive
that
work.
That is correct. We have a number of members also, well, in the tourism at a small level, like
yes.
Airbnb
yeah.
and so on and so forth. But I think overall it's an excellent presentation, good presentation, and we are better prepared now for any eventuality, any hurricane than we was before. Thank you very much.
Thank you, SVJ. And I, in turn, wanted to thank you for raising the issue of being more granular with our tips and resources and ensuring that we can, guide interested persons to the who, the what, the where, the how to get those resources. I think that's a very good point. And I think that's a challenge in case it does not yet exist, in case it does not yet have that granularity, that we can do that, to revisit some of those resources. And if you have them, UNDP would like to share on an appropriate spot on our webpage as well to jump in to provide that information. I think that this was an excellent fireside chat, and I want to thank our panelists and to ask you to give them a round of applause. But we do have an input from our strawberry farmer from the top of St. Elizabeth Mountain, Santa Cruz, Miss Trishana.
All right, so I'm a small-scale strawberry farmer, and so often I've called down by a RADA office in Santa Cruz, in St. Elizabeth, but I haven't got any good response as to what does RADA offer small-scale strawberry farmers.
Thank you, Trishana. Well, during the and after Hurricane Beryl, almost entire greenhouse infrastructure in St. Elizabeth, Manchester had been wiped out, except few. So I want to say to you, unfortunately, I'm hearing that if you report it and you didn't get any feedback from your RADA extension agent, but for entire greenhouse sector, especially St. Elizabeth, Clarendon, and Manchester, and to some extent St. Anne, there was a significant support in terms of the plastic material to restart. And there is a latest support also to replace the framing, because most of the houses which had been collapsed during the Beryl apparently had a very weak aluminium framing structure. So can I just, not now, but after this meeting, I will take your name and we will re-engage you to see what else we can support. But I know majority of the farmers, I do recall a list of 180 plus farmers who got support under the Beryl. And I will find out why you was not on the list of visiting farmers, but we can clarify that, and moving on will be more successful next time, hopefully no disasters.
Okay. And we do have a comment from
and I will
Jamaica
respond
Network.
to you after outside in terms of the, but we, if you allow me, the extent of natural disasters, it's billions of dollars of damage. Based on our latest report, it was over 48,000 farmers generally. Mr. Thompson mentioned that it was just a part of the island. However, the parishes which had suffered had the highest population of farmers. Let's just say St. Elizabeth farming population is now over 38,000 farmers. Comparing with maybe St. Andrew and Kingston, maybe 6, 7, 8, 9,000 farmers. So you understand extent of the damages, and it was a significant impact. Manchester, Clarendon, St. Anne followed to in terms of farming population. So logically, farmers and my colleagues, it is unlikely that every single farmer will get support, and especially not even support, but level of support. However, I know the Minister, Honorable Minister Green, the Permanent Secretary, management of RADA, we are looking at the system when farmers, if somebody did not benefit, they will benefit another time. And I just also want to say a part of the recovery efforts in terms of programs, farmers needs to know that ministry administering through RADA major production initiative program, which is targeting 10 crops. And we hope that farmers are participating in those programs, because they're also input support, technical support in terms of, for example, input substitution, right? We're building our capacity to reduce our importation of onion, Irish potato, hopefully strawberry soon. But yes, the plans are there.
And we have a comment from Jamaica Network of Rural Women Producers. Can you introduce yourself?
So good afternoon, colleagues. I'm Marva Allen Sims, and I'm representing the network. And of course, Shoshana is a member of the network. I'd just like to say that I heard your comment about, where you find information and, a hairdresser won't just leave her business to go and do X. But what I would encourage you to say to your members is that they are to join the networks that are around, because a little from here and a little from there and a little from there, information is all around. And especially our women farmers and or women producers, because we do have women who are in agro-processing. There are those that produce body oils and hair oils and so on. And they're a part of the network. What we did, Trishana did mention that she contacted RADA, but Trishana was also gifted with support through Care International. So she got resources from there to get her farm up and running. She got water tank and other things. So what I do is to ask you to encourage your members to join the Jamaica Network of Rural Women, because we do get support from international partners, regional partners as well. So a little from here and a little from there can get them up and running with their businesses, for them to get back into production and to help us with food security. A lot of our members are into farming, as you know, but they're also into other things.
Thank you so much. We'd like to also raise the possibility of maybe a collaboration between the SPAJ and other responsible organizations to come up with that granular list of resources, something as a project that SPAJ can undertake to provide that level of guidance for your members. I think that's something that you could take on and share with us, please, when you're ready. I think we're not at the end of Fireside 1, and we're almost supposed to be at the end of the the entire event. I just wondered if you could hold that question until the end. We promise to come back to it, and just want to thank the panelists. Please give them a round of applause once again as we invite Miss Michelle Edwards and Miss Rochelle from the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports. Rochelle Graham Barnes. Please sit on either side of me. Miss Michelle Edwards, is she around? Is Michelle here? Mm-hmm. Thank you. Time. We are live from the UNDP multi-country office in Jamaica. Our location is at 123 Lady Musgrave Road. This is Hurricane Ready and Resilient, a forum for micro, small, and medium enterprises, focusing on their hurricane preparation and recovery, and focusing on their resilience in order to become hurricane resilient. If you are joining us via our social media channels on Facebook and on YouTube, we encourage you to share the live, to make your comment, to share using the hashtag Hurricane Resilient with a T. While we take effort to find Miss Michelle Edwards, we're going to start our question time, which is focusing on loss, damage, and what MSMEs can expect with Rochelle Graham Barnes, who is Acting Director, National Shelter, Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports. This was an important partner for us in our Livelihoods Recovery Program, where UNDP supported 54 women farmers to recover from Hurricane Beryl. Thank you for joining us once again, Rochelle. We have 2 short questions for you. This is a very short panel as we get prepared for our success stories. So we ask you to stay with us because we have more after this fireside chat, along with the premiere of our video feature on 10 tips to prepare for the hurricane season for MSMEs. Ms. Graham Barnes, women MSMEs, small business operators, and those enterprises which are run by persons with disabilities are disproportionately impacted when hurricanes strike. What is the government observing about hurricane impact on these vulnerable groups?
Thank you, Jillian. So generally, women are impacted disproportionately. And so when you add the further compounding fact that they have disabilities, that is a whole other situation you now have to contend with. As you'd have heard earlier, I think a number of persons, resident rep, PS, and I think Louis spoke to the specifics that women face, those added things that they have to face. So they look at the unpaid care work that is involved. So they don't have the necessary wiggle room to actually engage in different entrepreneurial activities as they would want, because they have to make sure they take care of their families, they take care of the home. And so whatever time they have left, that is what they focus on their businesses. And so then that is an additional issue that they face. Also, what we're seeing is that when you have natural disasters, when you have disasters like a Hurricane Beryl, most or all of their livelihood is completely lost. And as you'd have heard as well, I saw in the video that was produced earlier, she said there was no fatherly support in the home. And so that is, of course, what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of these. And I think somebody would have pointed out earlier about the support that is provided for the Jamaica Network of Rural Women Producers. That is one of the groups that we, within the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, work with, because we recognize that these persons come with all of these vulnerabilities, all of these issues. And so when you have a devastating occurrence such as a Hurricane Beryl and everything is lost, how then do we put things in place? And this is what we've recognized. This is what has happened. And so these persons come to us to say, hey, how is it that you can help? Because we're not the experts in agriculture, we're not the experts in MSMEs. No, we're not, but we're experts in women. We're experts in ensuring that women are empowered and women find a space where they can actually thrive. And so that is where we come in to say, if women call us, and a lot of times what we get is that we have established our national gender-based helpline, gender-based violence helpline. But that helpline has turned into a line for everything. So people call that helpline, whether it's for gender-based violence or otherwise. And in some cases, because it's a 24-hour helpline, people call to say, hey, I need help. And so this is where we got some of this information as to what is happening with our women through the helpline who would have called us. And so we look at that and see how best we can help. Because as I said, we're not the experts, but we know where we can point to provide the support. Which, as you said, with UNDP and those 54 women who were supported, had it been that we didn't respond to that call that we got and know that we have partners such as UNDP, we would not have been able to provide that specific support, which complements, as we identified, that, as was said earlier by Radha, that there will be gaps. And so if there are gaps, how do we make sure that there are other persons who are partnering to provide that support to women?
Right. Very good point. We just want to go straight to it and ask you, how is the ministry working to reduce the risks that you've identified?
Okay, so one of the things that we do is, and I heard it coming out a lot since this morning, is partnership. So because we're not the experts, so what we've done currently, we're working with ODPEM to make sure that when we go into our communities to do our sensitization and awareness raising, we have someone from ODPEM who comes with us to provide some of those sessions, to provide those awareness raising in specific about those topics, because we're not the experts. We've also looked at what are some of the things within the Gender and Climate Change Strategy and Action Plan. And one of the things was that we recognized that if we tap into that network, which the ministry is a part of, we are one of the focal points for the Climate Change Division. And so we also use those persons to build the capacity. Last year as well, we had a session with UNFPA where they looked at gender-based violence in emergency response. And so that training that we did, we invited different partners because we have what is called a referral pathway and a continuum of care. So when our clients come to us, we make sure that even if we don't provide the services, because obviously our expertise is very specific. So where we don't have the expertise, then we identify within our network, within our referral pathway, within our continuum of care, who are the partners who are most poised to provide that support, and we reach out to them. So as I said, we would have reached out to our international partners to provide that support. Those 54 women would not have received that. This training that was included in, that was provided for over 120 persons on how do you respond in specifically gender-based violence response. So when you're setting up, when you're looking at the shelters that are provided, how do you make sure that you're not adding any other layer that actually causes more gender-based violence within the shelters, because you don't know how long persons will be staying in these shelters. So if they're in the shelters, how do we make sure that they're safe for them to stay there? Because you don't want to be helping them by taking them out of the disaster situation and putting them in something else. So we provide that, and so that is really how we look at the partnerships. And it's very important because within our work, we have the National Policy for Gender Equality, and one of the key guiding principles is partnerships. So where it is that we can't provide the support, we look to see how it is that we can do that. In addition, we have what is called COPE. This is it's the community outreach program, a community outreach program for empowerment. And this really, what we do is we've identified different groups, community groups, NGOs, who they might need a little financial support, financial and technical support. And this includes capacity building and providing some amount of funds each month to these persons so that they are able to carry out their functions. And this is one way that we're trying to make sure that if you have a small business, you provide some sort of funding. So it's not something that we have just available to give everybody, obviously, because it's government funded. And so we try to identify those specific areas that might need it. Some of these persons, they come to us, again, through the helpline or otherwise, and we try to provide that support. There's also the Women's Entrepreneurship Support Project. This was established in 2017 and was established through a MOU with then Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries. I think that's what it was called at the time. And we started then with, I think maybe it was about 4 women or so. And now we've actually moved to much more than that. We've actually doubled the numbers that we have because we have different phases. We're actually at phase 4 now. And phase 4 provides that financial support to groups. And in this particular space, we're looking at women with disabilities, women entrepreneurs, so that we provide that additional support through different partnerships. Again, this phase 4 is really with Canada. It's the LEAF Local Engagement Fund. That is what we're using now to get support to provide that to the women who may have faced disasters or simply just need some help for their businesses. So those, we have COPE, we have WEST, and then we provide additional support by pointing to where it is that the support might be provided, where it is that we don't have that support in-house.
So women-led micro, small, medium enterprises, you heard that? Quite a few programs and initiatives and facilities available at the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports, including the COPE mechanism that provides funds. The Women's Entrepreneurship Support Project, the WEST Project, all of these. And I would like you to also mention once again, how can they access the gender-based violence helpline?
Sure, I'm so happy you asked me that because I just realized that I didn't give the number. So it's 876-553-0372, 876-553-0372, or 876-553-0387. So those are the 2 numbers. Again, it's for specifically, you'll hear it's gender-based violence helpline, but it's a helpline that anybody calls, and we provide support as much as possible, because we have a referral pathway which says if it's not us, we identify who it is and we point the persons who call us to that support that they need.
Yes, and I think that those numbers bear repeating. Ladies and gentlemen online, if you want to reach out to the gender-based violence helpline, if you are in any kind of domestic violence situation, whether it be man, woman, or child, we ask you to reach out to 876-553-0372 or 876-553-0387. This could save your life. So please reach out. And bearing in mind as well that when we have a disaster or any kind of hurricane or any other crisis event, domestic violence situations tend to increase at that time. So it's always important to have that as a number that you can easily reach, so that in case of any problem, in case of any escalation, you can reach out to this number, 553-0372, 553-0387. Thank you so much, Rochelle. And I want to welcome now Ms. Michelle Edwards, who is Deputy Director General Acting for the Office for Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management. And we have invited her here today to talk about loss and damage. Hurricanes are getting worse. They're getting more frequent, they're getting more intense, and we are more likely to be hit by hurricanes. And so the whole area of loss and damage has opened up globally. We're now looking at it more clinically, ensuring we know what the numbers are so we can plan ahead. And so to set the context for us and to help us to understand what Beryl did to this country is Ms. Edwards. And so she's going to walk us through very quickly, some of the data to show us what happened, especially during Beryl, as a climate change impact that is worsening. Give us an overview of the damage caused by Beryl. Walk us through the sectoral impacts, starting with those impacted in terms of dollar value amounts.
Okay, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Hurricane Beryl. Hurricane Beryl, in terms of the damage, that it caused on Jamaica, we're looking at a total of approximately $56.7 billion in damage. And that damage cost would have come about from the various assessments that are done by various ministries, departments, and agencies as they go out and they do their damage assessment. We heard from the presentation before, where Rada would have spoken about going out and doing a damage assessment after the impact of the hurricane. And that damage assessment really, takes, it's a process that it's global in terms of across all of Jamaica, where we use a standard methodology to assess the damage, and so that we can quantify what the losses are. And of course, we can also determine the needs, because after we have a disaster, then we have various avenues and pathways for assistance, but that is guided by the needs, the damage and the needs assessment that is done. And then to add to that, there is the steps in the damage assessment process. We have the initial damage assessment, then we have the detailed damage assessment, and then we have the post damage assessment and needs and damage assessment. And in that final leg of the damage assessment is where we have the dollar value losses and the GDP part of it being applied. And Hurricane Beryl, that $56.7 billion in damage. When we look at the various sectors that have been impacted, the social sector, we have a total of $29.6 in damage to the social sector. And the social sector includes, like your schools, your Ministry of Education. They would have, the assessments done on schools damaged would have formed a part of that total. And we have some 330 schools that required repairs after Beryl, and that total in damage was in the region of $3.6 billion. And of course, Hurricane Beryl occurred in the summer break. So it gave us a chance to, do some. It caused less disruption for sure in the school system.
What were the other sectoral impacts? Dollar value.
The other sectoral impacts for the productive sector, which MSSEs would fall under, the impact was in the region of $8.7 billion in damage. Infrastructure was 5.6, and what they call cross-cutting, a cross-cutting area is in the region of about $2.8 billion in damage. And these damage figures would have come out of the post-disaster needs assessment that was done after Hurricane Beryl and prepared by the PIOJ. So, and of course,
US dollars or Jamaican
dollars?
Jamaican dollars.
And
okay.
And of course, this is data that is provided by the various ministries, departments, and agencies that would have done their assessments after the impact of the hurricane. In terms of, I just wanted to highlight for the productive sector in particular, since we are looking at the topic that we are today, that the agriculture and the fisheries sector, they sustained severe damage. We all know that of course, the hurricane passed on the southern section of the island, and so, your parishes like Clarendon and Manchester and St. Elizabeth significantly affected. So we had over 48,000 farmers that were impacted, and over 11,000 fishers that were impacted, and some over 23,000 hectares of land that was impacted, along with livestock. And so the damage and loss for that sector alone is in the region of $6.5 billion. So that is
very important data. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Ms. Edwards. Yes, please.
You mentioned in your presentation.
Can you share the mic and just introduce yourself once more before you ask your question?
Garnet Reed. I'm president of the Small Business Association of Jamaica. You mentioned in your presentation that over 48,000 farmers was affected by the hurricane. Out of that 48, how many of those people have get some type of compensation? I know my good member here said after Hurricane Beryl, he have yet to get any form of assistance.
Yes, so RADA was here before, and this is a different panel.
Right.
So this is ODPEM, and they're presenting on loss and
she
damage
wouldn't have
in
any.
general.
She wouldn't have any
I
information.
think RADA would have been the one to have asked that question. Yes. Yes. Here we go. I forgot they were here.
Recovery program aimed to assist 60% of farmers who've been documented as those 48,000. So, and it is basically telling you that there is no program which can assist to all of the farmers, but out of those 48, more than 60%.
There are no what?
No, but I'm saying that if the data, which is, you heard, 48,000 affected farmers, the Beryl recovery program aimed to assist 60% of those farmers, but it was actually a little bit more than 60. So we cannot guarantee that all 100% farmers will be assisted, but there is a level of assessment, and depends on the type of the crops and other things, right? So it is reality, and that's where we are. But we consider just recovery after Beryl recovery was successful, and if it would not be impact of Raphael storm, would be in much comfortable position by December, and would not have any challenges with the supply of produce.
So what do we say to the other 40% of farmers who you cannot support? Or what we say to them?
What we're saying that we're trying to balance within the ministry and RADA that if particular farmer gets support this time and particular farmer did not, so if there will be another recovery program, we would definitely look at the records to ensure that those who never benefited would benefit.
And the second time around.
That is the approach we're taking, all right?
Wonderful.
So the farmers have to also ensure that in addition to the telephone calls, which were not possible in those affected parishes for a number of the weeks, that the farmers actually not only visit the parish office, but also complete application forms for the assistance. But that's a opportunity for us to talk on another, maybe opportunity in another venue, because we do have a public events. And thank you for your questions, because it's very
and thank you for your answer.
To the point.
We want to thank Rochelle and Michelle for giving us of their time and their expertise for Fireside 2. And we want to invite at the same time Romeo and Keisha to the Fireside chairs for our final panel. We're almost there, viewers. Please stay with us. Those of you with us on Zoom, those of us with you on Facebook and YouTube. If you're joining us for the first time, this is Hurricane Ready and Resilient, a forum for micro, small, and medium enterprises. We are providing hurricane preparation tips and guidance with respect to your recovery if you have been hit by a hurricane. We have been joined by a number of experts. We have just finished 2 fireside panels, and we are now on to the final fireside panel, which is the success stories. We are going to be talking to 2 persons, 2 small business owners who have been through it. They have survived a hurricane, and they have recovered, and they're applying disaster risk principles. I think we want to just now take a lot of what we have learned and to see how it practically applies. Can someone help to escort Keisha Wint to the front? Nikisha, can you, she's getting help? Okay. So we ask her to come to the front. Fireside number 3, the final of 3 fireside chats. Before we end today's Hurricane Ready and Resilient live forum. And we want to especially thank, this is a chair, and so you come around here. Right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you, you look so beautiful in blue. We want to welcome Keisha Wint from Manchester. She's a poultry farmer. And I want to thank Romeo Mitchell. He's the CEO of Paradise Blends, which is a spice company. They have been through hurricanes, viewers and audience here on location, and they have quite a bit to share with us. As you explore loss and damage for micro, small, and medium enterprises, we think that their experience is something that would be of interest to persons here on location and online. Keisha, I have the first question for you. Tell us about yourself and your business, first of all.
Okay, so my name is Keisha Wint, and I'm from southern Manchester. So I am a poultry farmer, and I've been doing this since 2010. And starting that business, I would have lost my sight like 22 years now. So as a single parent, I wanted to do something to help my son. So I was thinking, what am I going to do? So I started with about 25 chickens at the time. And, it was challenging. And for me, as somebody who is blind, persons thought that, I couldn't have done it. But knowing the person that I am a very determined person, and I go for what I want. So I don't accept defeat. And so I decided, listen, I wanted to do this, and thank God I have done it, and it was able to help my son all the way through high school when he left in 2020.
Wonderful.
And, it has its ups and downs because I've lost a lot over the years. And, you know, when Beryl came last year, to be honest, trust me, it pushed me in a state of depression because I lost everything. And at that time, it was 1 week before Beryl, I lost my father. So it just hit me rock bottom. And I was at a crossroad. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. And to be honest with you, I heard a person from RADA. I've reached out. And to be honest, up to today, all I get is a bag of empty promises. Empty promises, nothing at all I didn't get. So, you know, I have to thank God for the Good Samaritans. You know, I have to thank God for the UNDP, the JN Network, and the Bureau of Gender who reach out with a lifeline. And that is why I'm here today as a proud beneficiary of the program.
Yes, thank you so much, Keisha. And we recognize that there are resource constraints with government agencies as well. So we know and recognize that RADA has helped thousands of farmers, and that we recognize that with those constraints that they are applying the principle of those who have not gotten help at one point in time of the recovery process are able to access at another time of the recovery process. So as all the various agencies come together, you know, that everybody, we hope, will get help along the way. Romeo, I just want to ask you to just introduce yourself and your business.
Good afternoon. I'm Romeo Mitchell. I am the owner of Paradise Blends. I'm from the parish of Clarendon. I think it's the best parish in Jamaica. And yes, so I do natural herbs and spices, specifically cayenne pepper, cinnamon, basil, oregano, parsley. Recently started doing juices. I do turmeric with pineapple, turmeric with mango, and I am venturing into teas, and I do soursop leaf powder, and I also do moringa powder, and I'm just loving this niche market, just loving it.
So, Keisha, I'm going to take this back to you now. How have hurricanes impacted your business over the years? I know Beryl impacted you. And if it was another hurricane, collectively, how have they impacted your business over the years? And what did this mean for you and your family?
It impacted me a lot financially and as a single parent. And for me personally, I have lost a lot because the medical bills was piling up everything because for me, I have health issues that I have to spend thousands of dollars like every month. And because I have to go private, because I don't get those assistance from the government system. So it set me back. As I said, it pushed me into a state of depression. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. So, you know, I trust me, Beryl, even though, you know, me cuss out Beryl and all these things when she come, but I still have to give God thanks for her. You know, because if it wasn't for Beryl, we wouldn't have gotten this opportunity. And, you know, I said to myself, you know, this is our moment. And I embrace it a lot because, you know, we're not going to have another Beryl, so we have to appreciate the opportunity that we got. You understand? Yeah, because because she do my bad. And, you know, she threw us out in deep waters. And, you know, I'm happy for the support, the lifeline that we got, you know. Even the team came out and they threw a life jacket, and that is the reason why we are here. You know, they didn't left us to drown. So I'm very grateful because, trust me, it was very devastating. I lost every single thing, and, you know, the little saving that you save, you have to spend it up on everything. So it was a great loss for me.
Romeo, we throw the same question to you as we seek to understand how this hurricane impacted small business operators like yourself. How have the hurricanes impacted you over the years, and what did this mean for you and your family?
So before answering the question, let me just say that I started my business right in the kitchens of RADA in Clarendon. So I have to give kudos to RADA for that, all right? And also SDC, who has been helping me over the years. And how has Beryl and hurricanes over the years has affected me? I would have endured Beryl, and Raphael came after. Is it right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would have lost. My pimento tree just started bearing. Just started. So I lost my pimento tree,
And what I did though, I would have used some of the bark and some of the leaves, and I would have grind it with some of the seeds and do an allspice. And I'm still using it today. And Beryl also would have affected my roof. And I was up and about, and amazingly, that day I was shelter manager. So I had to be running from the shelter to home to secure home also. And USADA, I think that's the name of the group, USADA. When I went to Dembe, I would have gotten 2 pimento trees, 2 pimento plants. I gave one to a friend and I replanted that one. I do a bit of scallion, because now and then I can just pull to my scallion, and I lost all of that because of the root rot. And I would have lost peppers and other stuff, but I always have seeds, and I'm a person, I'm very, very resilient. So I know that whenever we have a major catastrophe, I know that I have to put in the work so that I can recover.
And that, I want to stay with you as you made that point, Romeo. You have been trained through UNDP support in business resilience and continuity. I want you to share with MSMEs who are here on location and online, what aspects of the training have you applied and how has it helped? Be very specific with us.
So whenever there is a storm coming, my products will get wet if I don't do the necessary preparation. So I do package my stuff in plastic bags and plastic containers. But the ones that is not packaged, what I'll do, I'll store them in plastic bags, put them in a bucket, and then I put them in another plastic. So, I mean, that's a whole lot of prevention right there. And also, what I'll do, I'll make shelves and put them above the ground. So I'm trying my best in all ways to ensure that I don't get a lot of damage. And I ensure that if I know that there's a hurricane coming up, what I'll do, products that I will have to store in the refrigerator, I try not to get those.
What's the shelf life?
Shelf life for my products, I do turmeric seasoning. For those who are hearing about a turmeric seasoning for the first, I understand that I'm the first person who have done that. So shelf life for that is that's a year, and for the herbs, it's 2 years.
And when you compare the impact of hurricanes in the past to now that you're applying those principles, you would say what?
I would say minimal damage, or little to no damage, and the recovery is way more easier.
Thank you. Same question to you, Keisha. You recently received support from UNDP livelihood grants, and you were also given gender-sensitive training that included principles of hurricane preparations and risk recovery. I don't think you've been able to apply any aspects of those training as yet, obviously, because we've not had a hurricane since then that may have impacted you. But what were some of the principles in training that really stood out to you and that you appreciated?
Some of those training principles, the preparation, because as a poultry farmer, I would have learned to secure, especially if they are baby chicks, how to secure those chicks. And because there's not much that we can do as a poultry farmer, especially if you don't have the facility to keep those chicks. So, it's still work in the making, so I'm still trying to, get some of those things together.
As you said that, Keisha, I just wanted Radha to respond to that, because I do know that there are aspects of what they shared about any livestock that you may have. Radha, Keisha has poultry. She lost all of her poultry in the recent Hurricane Beryl. She doesn't have a lot of space. Do you have any advice for her and for other poultry farmers or what they can specifically do to help to save their livestock?
All right. For poultry farmers, you have a small chicken house, you said, right?
Yes.
Do you have facilities indoor, like a veranda that you could enclose or anything like that? Because once it's a small facility, it's just a few chickens, so you can safeguard them inside. Other than that, you'll have to ensure that the housing is secured.
Yeah. What about the kitchen? Is that the kitchen?
Whichever facility you have that you can take them indoor.
A friend's house?
A friend's veranda.
Just the one there.
So we're putting it out there because we know a number of small poultry farmers may not have those facilities. Right. So we just urge to start to think about it.
Right.
That even if you don't have, that facility, where can you get that facility? Who can you talk to save your chickens? Because when we were going through the country, as a UNDP team, we met so many poultry farmers who lost 100% of their stock. And so this is a question that we have to confront and ask people to now just start to think very carefully of what you will do next time when you hear we're going to get a direct hit from a hurricane. Go ahead.
Right. And what you can also do is to speak to the livestock officer at the RADA office, and they can come and assist you with doing an assessment in terms of giving you tips in terms of what to do, how you can better secure your facility that you have there, or just to look around in the surrounding in terms of what can be done to reinforce that facility that you have presently.
We have Trishana from St. Elizabeth, Santa Cruz Mountains, Potsdam district, right. So, Trishana, you lost most of your plants and your flowers. I don't know how much you've heard, but what do you think you would do differently based on what you've heard today?
So, what, don't know what your name is from, Rada. She encouraged that we keep poultry, but my flowers were in my house.
Oh, you kept them in your house?
Yes, I kept some in the house, and some was in the greenhouse, and some were other places. But the roof went for the house, so they were still damaged. So what I would encourage to do is to have seedlings and extra potting soil and trays, so we could start over.
Yes. Another point shared by Rada. Thank you so much. What has helped you recover, Romeo, you would think, and how has business been since then? Apart from just applying those principles, what else you feel combined has helped you recover?
Okay, so as I said earlier, my favorite go-to ministry is the Ministry of Labor and Ministry of Local Government, and that is specifically the SDC, as I'm a local economic initiative under their group. And as such, even after Beryl, the first call I would have gotten is from my officer, Mr. Anderson. He's the local economic lead SP officer. So they would channel me through how to get grants. So if it's a case where I need a grant, they would channel me through that. And the Ministry of Local Government, with the path section, there's grants there. And as I'm looking at my friend here, I'm just realizing that there is a disability unit that would help her so much. You understand? And today would have really shown that there is so many policies that the government has. But how does it reach the people?
Who need it most?
That is a question. And I remember, and I'm just deviating a bit.
No, that's okay.
And I would have seen people in my community that needs a help, and I called the manager for RADA, and he came with the officer, and they wanted to raise chickens, but they don't have a chicken coop. And RADA does not usually build these facilities. And they were willing to build a facility. But the reality is that the condition that they are living in, it is not hygienic for them to even raise chickens. You understand? Well, as I said, there are many policies out there that will help, but how to tell or how to get the information to the person. Because the truth is, we have the smartphones, and many of us are not using it smartly.
Yes.
And that's true, Romeo. You also can get in touch with the Development Bank of Jamaica. The Development Bank of Jamaica, who help farmers, budding farmers, upcoming startup. They have a program that assists budding farmers.
The startup initiative.
Right.
Go ahead, Marina.
I'm waiting for question and answer sessions, but my colleague brought something very important. I think it's very, very, it would be very, very impactful if UNDP or any affiliated organization help to the farmer, sorry, not to the farmer association, to the small business associations to build up mobile platform so they can basically communicate with their farmers, providing information, linking them to other mobile platforms like RADA mobile app when you can get a lot of information. So we have to recognize that use of the WhatsApp, for example, it is day-to-day activities for RADA extension officers. We have WhatsApp for the farmer clusters, for the farmer groups, individual farmers. So this is something very, efficient in terms of passing of information and sharing information. So I'm very appreciative that you mentioned that we have tools that we are not using, but small entities like yours probably will not be able to develop yourself, but you can put a concept note maybe to your UNDP or some other funding agency to help to build up that online platform, because really and truly mobile phones is there today and tomorrow feature, and we need to use it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know that Keisha had a burning concern. Keisha, if you had to convert that into a recommendation for government or for other stakeholders, what would that be?
Very much so. I think for us as persons with disabilities, we have a voice, but sometimes they don't listen. We need somebody to listen. Well, sometimes they do listen, but I think they need to listen more. And we need more assistance. I know it is there, but there are some persons who just can't get those assistants. I think they need to push more for us as persons with disability, because sometimes they feel as if because we have our disabilities, we have no place in society. They push us aside. We can't do anything because, we have some doubtful Thomas out there, and they feel as if though we have a disability, there's nothing we can do for ourselves, but that's a lie. And I want those persons out there who have a disability, listen, don't let your disability define you. Don't let it stop you from achieving what you want to do. You understand? So they can take a page out of my book, because I don't allow my disability to stop me from doing what I want to do. As I said, 22 years and here I am. I never let it I've got depressed at times, but I push myself, because to be honest, I don't like to beg. I don't like hands out. So if I come to you today and beg something, I don't want to come back tomorrow. So I want to help myself. And, so I think that the persons in authority, they need to do more for us. Because information is out there, yes, and it's a good thing. I do my research and get information when I want it. Because even when Hurricane Beryl came last year, nobody reached out to us from my community and said, okay, in case if you want to go to a shelter or something, as a person with disability, this is where you go or what. Nobody. I have to do all the research myself. You understand? So, yes, the smartphone is good and it's a good thing. I get the information myself and know what to do. So I think they need to do more. We belong here and we're going to stay here. Not because we have a disability. Listen, we didn't go there and bought it. And so we need more assistance. And I might a lot of persons don't have the opportunity that I have. There are persons out there who have their disabilities and they don't know what to do. They just tell themselves, look here, I have my disability and there's nothing we can do. No, don't define yourself. Don't limit yourself. Go out there and do something with yourself, because to be honest with them, I don't like the bigger them. No. And when I see everybody person them out there are big, and even this man I was coming, somebody stopped at the car and was begging at me. I said, then if I can do something with myself, why can't you do it? You understand? Persons need to go out there and do what they are supposed to do. Because, to be honest, there are times when I feel like I don't give up, but I say, no, I have my life to live. I have bills to take care of. Because let me give you an example. On 2 occasions, man goes eat the chickens. And I tell myself, and that was like years ago, I tell myself, boy, I'm not buying no more. And I go back and I say, no, I'm not with them winning, I'm going to go back again and buy them, eat it again. And I said, no, I can't afford it. Well, I say, I'm going to stop because I can't afford to buy chicken for mongoose because I can't sell mongoose. I can't eat the mongoose, so I'm going to stop. And then I said, no, I can't make the mongoose win. I'm a very determined person, because guess what? Yes. If you beat me today, I'll come back for you tomorrow. That's how determined I am. I don't take defeat. So that is why I push. I'm a very determined person. I'm very determined, and I stand up for what I want. And we have some. How did you overcome the mangoes? I use the dogs as security. Yes. So sometimes when you have your disabilities, family members seems to push you aside because they feel say because you have your disabilities, they're going to take care of you the rest of your life. No. We are capable enough. We are independent person. We want to do stuff for ourselves. So we just want the help, the assistance. So I'm just putting it out there. We have a voice, and we just want somebody to listen and to reach out.
Powerful and inspirational words from Keisha, reminding us that that those with disabilities, persons with disabilities, they have a voice. They are a concern. They have a vision. They have a dreams for how they want to see their lives go. Many of them are small business operators, and they need specialized help. They need resources that are specially tailored for them. I heard Romeo speak about a disability unit within the Ministry of Local Government. So we want to reinforce that as one of the resources that has emerged in this live stream. We also want to mention others that Romeo has brought up, including through the STC, the Local Economic Initiative, for persons who are interested in going into business. And he mentioned PATH grants for those who are in the PATH program, that they do provide grants for small business persons. And we also take a point from the RADA team about the possibility of the SBAJ building up a mobile platform that provides a lot of those resources. So a lot of good has been shared here today. As your last word to us, what kind of support, and I know some of it was mentioned here, but that which you've not mentioned yet, what kind of support do you think small business persons like yourself need to build their hurricane resilience and recovery? Romeo, but I want you to dovetail into for persons with disabilities, Keisha. But I start off with Romeo first.
Okay, so Keisha says that she does not like to beg. But earlier this week, what I saw is Minister Floyd Green and my manager at RADA giving a small farmer, someone with the same disability as Keisha, defeathering machine to help with the chickens. So I am asking for Keisha.
I reached out to RADA just a month ago about that, and they told me that they don't have nothing in store for that right now. I asked them when, and they said they can't give me any information, and that I've reached out to them, but
no, I can tell you more specifically. The officer responded to you that way because it was probably not new financial year. So for 25-26 financial year, the livestock and the production infrastructure program will be getting support for the livestock farmers and poultry farmers specifically, including machines. So we will follow to today's meeting with to see how we can assist. And just to use this opportunity. All right, so my good friend has also mentioned that what happened that when we on a path of recovery, part of the providing support, Keisha, it's for you, even for the poultry farmers, let's say baby chicks and feed. It is required for the officers to look at the facility, because we would not provide you if you do not have a proper housing to facilitate, So I just want to say sometimes you get not getting through. I'm not talking about Keisha specifically. It's just because at the time we did not have a, except for Beryl, we would not have a support with a lumber and mesh, etc. Right? So if there is no sufficient square footage and facility to accommodate the birds, their life, and their need a space. So sometimes farmers are not getting through.
I think, can we, yes, and before you say that, Keisha, I just wondered if we can connect you to Keisha, that maybe she needs a number from one of you. Since she said she has so many. Okay, Keisha, all right. But I think she needs a win with Rado. So I think that if we can support her in that respect, so that she has a win also for her community, and that they know that they can reach out to RADA for that.
I just want to make sure that if the mobile form for Keisha for farmer registration form, which is 2022, is the same Keisha, or you need to give me your.
Is that the same person, Keisha?
Well, it depends on the district. Because they have a lot of Keisha wins in that area.
So okay. So we can talk off the air about those specific details, because we're going to refreshments after this, so we can mingle and share that information. All right, go ahead, Keisha.
So as she was saying, space, I just want to put it out there. I have to thank the team, because when I rebuilt my coop, right now my coop can hold up to 300 baby chicks. And to be honest, I don't have enough right now to sell, because persons have been calling me, so I still need more. So anybody that I listen can assist. I'm putting it out there.
Oh,
so I
yes.
Still need it. Yes.
Keisha, you received grants and training through the UNDP Beryl Livelihoods Recovery Program. Tell us exactly what you received and how things are going.
Okay, so I've gotten assistance to rebuild the coop, and I got 100 chickens. And that was in December. And since then, it has been good. I can save a little more profit, because since Beryl, they send up the chicken price a little bit, so you're getting a little bit more money. So I can be able to save a little bit more. No, it has been good. And as I said, I don't have enough to sell, because even before there already persons have been calling for others. So I still have a lot of room for more. So, business has been good, and to save some more, because right now I have a house that I'm finishing, that my father died and leave, and so the savings I have to put it towards that. So I have to get it done by now in December. So it has been good, and I'm doing this because of the chickens that I have now. As I said, I get a little more profit, so I can do more things with the profit that I'm earning. So I have to be grateful for UNDP, the Bureau of Gender, and the JN record, because they have been a beacon of light for us, and I just want to thank God for them, because trust me, if it wasn't for them, I don't know what would have happened. So I have to say a big thank you to the team again.
We are happy for your success, Keisha. And we want to thank both you and Romeo for taking time out, for traveling all the way from Manchester to join us today. Romeo for traveling all the way from Clarendon to join us. We've learned so much from both of you today. We've learned some of the tips that you have applied in business recovery and disaster resilience training, and we have understood the importance of preparing beforehand, ensuring that you're putting in your planning, doing your risk assessments to ensure that you have a good outcome after a hurricane. We've also understood the importance of some tailored support for persons with disabilities. We're begging and asking the different agencies to just give a heed to that and see if you can maybe work with the different associations and different cooperative groups to see if we can tailor more support for that segment of MSMEs who are persons with disabilities. And of course, a more gender-sensitive approach, given that women have greater challenges in accessing capital, accessing insurance, land issues, family responsibilities, all of those which have been shared with us by the beneficiaries. Trishana, you want to share? You look like something is at the top of your head, and you have to share it. And I want to give you the mic to share it. What you want to share with us? You have the last word.
And even though the last time I was up there, I'm still here. I'm giving thanks just the same. The opportunity was great. After Beryl, as what Keisha said, it was really depressing. And as a single mother of 2 children, it really had me down. But UNDP and JNWRP group made it uplifting, you know, with all the motivation that we give ourselves, it really made an impact on
For the
us.
sake of those who are online, share what you were able to purchase with the grant that you were provided through the UNDP Bureau of Gender Affairs and Jamaica Network of Rural Women Producers Program.
So as was stated before, I'm a small-scale strawberry farmer. Also, I do ornamental plants, flowering plants, annuals and stuff. So with my grant, I got, it was 2 acres of drip material. I got a 1,000-gallon drum, and I got a pH meter and a nutrient balance, I think it was a nutrient meter. Yes, and I got a Venturi tube, a suction tube as well.
Yes.
But I haven't used it because the RADA field officer hasn't come to show me all of that as well. But I'm grateful. He'll be there. Okay. But
yeah, man.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So a good opportunity has opened up for you. We're making connections here, and at the time when we have in our refreshments, you can solidify those connections. How are things now going since you've gotten that?
To be honest, I haven't used the drip a lot because we haven't had any water. There's no rainfall within almost 3 weeks now, and with the Sahara dust, it's gotten a little worse. So I haven't, and I lost a lot of plants as well. That's why I asked what RADA does for strawberry farmers.
Okay,
Yes.
and that's a kind of a tricky plant.
Yes.
For our tropical
It needs
environment,
water.
although she is 2,000 feet above sea level, so she's in a zone that would perhaps do well. But we can make those connections with you and the RADA team and see what can happen. Yeah, man, we have a good team here, so it will take place.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much, Trishana. And with that, we're wrapping up Fireside 3, and we're almost at the end, folks. Do we have any general questions, comments at this point? Yes, sir. And could you introduce your name and your organization?
My name is Patrick Watson. I'm a Senior Director for Hazard Mitigation and Risk Management in the Ministry of Local Government. Just before wrapping up the Fireside chat, I just want to make a comment regarding the discussions. Very good presentation. I think the session is timely. But I'm also really impressed with the speakers, the speakers from the community level.
True.
The business operator, Paradise Blend, and the poultry farmer. And it sends a positive signal to local government generally. Because there you made mention of 2 entities within the Ministry of Local Government that you would have engaged and would have received service. The Social Development Commission with their local economic development initiative. The reports coming to the ministry state the challenges with this particular program in that there's a behavioral change that is needed with small business operators. They don't think business. They don't think processes. They think what is immediately in front of them, their need. And oftentimes they shy away from engaging in processes. But you're a success story. You have benefited. You have mentioned the name of your lead officer, Mr. Anderson. Good news will be going back to that parish about the work. But you also mentioned about a shelter manager. And I say shelter managers are special people. They are special people because while everybody's heading home to secure their family, a shelter manager is heading to a shelter to protect and secure other people. That speaks volume about who the gentleman is.
Can you make it specifically clear? I'm not a shelter manager.
Okay.
It just happened that on the day the shelter manager did not turn up.
And you act as just even make it worse. You act.
You still did it though.
Let me say you act. You are a shelter manager for that day.
Okay.
But it still speaks volume.
It's just to add to what Mr. Watson is saying. There is something that we take for granted a lot of times. The heart of a volunteer.
Exactly.
And that's what he's speaking to.
Yes.
Because even though you're not on the list registered as a shelter manager,
You provide a service.
because of your heart and your humanitarian
That's right.
side, you saw a need that you fulfill.
You provide a
So I think we have
service.
to give you kudos for
You
that.
provide the service. You provide the service.
And say thank you for your service.
Wonderful.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just want to
Yeah.
bring those points out because
I appreciate it.
as a senior member of the ministry
Yeah.
and as part of the disaster risk management team, my minister would be proud, my permanent secretary, if she was here, she would be saying thank you, sir, for your service.
Wonderful.
That's it.
Wonderful.
Great. So we're almost there, folks. Bear with us. We're almost there. We have one more video, two more videos to share with you. And this one that we're going straight to, JIS, we hope that video is ready. It's a very short video that captures, stay where you are, that captures some of the top 10 tips for how an MSME can prepare for the hurricane season. So we are now debuting for the first time anywhere our video presentation done by UNDP.
Small business operators, if a hurricane made landfall today, would you be ready? Here are 10 ways micro, small, and medium enterprises can be hurricane ready and resilient. One, know your risks and vulnerabilities. Is my roof intact? Can I exit my business easily? Is my location prone to flooding? 2. Make an emergency plan to address your vulnerabilities. 3. Make a listing of emergency contacts and yes, share with your team. 4. Involve your team from day one. In producing and executing the plan, your employees should know the plan. 5. Reduce your risks. Secure materials to protect your business assets. Identify a secondary location to conduct business just in case. 6. Create an emergency cash fund in case of power disruptions, as point of sale transactions may be disrupted. 7. Protect your files. Save to the cloud and digitize ahead of time. 8. Create a business continuity plan to get your business up and running quickly after a hurricane. 9. Secure your business insurance and or to make sure business insurance coverage to ensure your operations are adequately protected. 10. Practice, practice, practice. Conduct an evacuation drill and practice executing your emergency plan.
If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. UNDP invites you to start today. Small business resilience to natural disasters is crucial, not just for your family and community, but for the quick recovery and economic resilience of the nation.
So that video presentation, thank you, JIS, will be available on UNDP social media accounts. We invite you to download, we invite you to watch, we invite you to share, and we invite you again to use the hashtag Hurricane Resilient. Share it with MSMEs far and wide to get the message across, and share with them the links to other resources, other web pages available here. ODPEM, for example, would be one that has many resources that speak to that particular sector and in general for households and businesses. We have come to the end almost of our Hurricane Ready and Resilient Forum. It has been an interesting day. It has been a day filled with quite a bit of information that we have shared with micro, small, and medium enterprises. We've learned the importance of planning ahead of time, because if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. We've learned the importance of understanding what is the thing that you need the most in terms of your own business, and making sure that you make the plans around that. If you are an ice cream vendor, or if you are a chicken or poultry farmer, and if you are facing a hurricane, it means you will need power. You will need something to power your business. What will you do if power goes? Those are some of the resources. We invite you to just find that timestamp and go over some of those tips that have been provided in the Fireside 1 that had our ODPEM Director General and as well our RADA experts for some of that information. We were happy today to have a number of speakers and presenters, and we recall them and thank them so much for joining us. Marsha Henry Martin, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development. Harold Davis, CEO of Jamaica Business Development Corporation. Garnet Reed, President, Small Business Association of Jamaica, and his team. Delia Dwyer Hodlin, Principal Director, MSME Industry Emerging Sector and ISO in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. Marina Young, of Principal Director of Technical Services. Patrick Watson, Senior Director in the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development. Michelle Edwards, Deputy Director General. Richard Thompson, Director General Acting, Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management. Dwayne Haynes of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. Rochelle Graham Barnes, Acting Director, National Shelter, Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports, and of course our UNDP staff members, those of you online on the Zoom platform, and those of you watching us live on Facebook and YouTube. It has been our absolute honor to host you for this Hurricane Ready and Resilient Forum. As we sign off today for the UNDP Multi-Country Office in Jamaica, I urge you to take every precaution in this hurricane season. Heed the hurricane warnings. Download the information produced by the ODPEM. Download UNDP special tips curated for MSMEs. But before we go, one final word from the lady bosses we showcased earlier. And these are now the lady bosses who have overcome hurricane losses. Let's take it away with the lady bosses.
My name is Maya Biggs. I am from Pleasant Valley, that's located in Clarendon, where on my farm, where I do chicken rearing, I receive an 8-gallon water tank and 8 feet zinc and a roll of chicken mesh wire. Where the 8-gallon tank is used for water harvesting, and the zinc and the mesh wire is used to build the chicken coop, where I raise my chickens also. When Hurricane Beryl struck, it kind of dropped back on supply. So now I'm back on my feet, it kind of pushed the business a little bit further to move on. I have 30 chickens in the coop now, and they're expected to ready in February. And then we are expecting to sell it to other members or other buyers. We supply to like the shops, people that keep in their round robins, they drink out. Those are the people that we supply to, that they buy from us.
My name is Keisha Wint, and I am from Warwick, South Manchester, and I am a poultry farmer. So I got 100 chickens, feeds, and the material to expand the chicken coop. It has been good so far because the chickens have more room to, to move about, and that is good for them. So the expansion will help me to add more baby chicks, so I can have more chicks to sell on the market. I do have a lot of customers who I supply, so I will have more chicks so I can able to supply the market.
So my name is Trishana Brown. I'm a strawberry farmer and I'm from Potsdam. So I got a 1,000-gallon drum and I got 2 acres of drip house material, and I got a venturi tube pH tester and a nutrient meter. Well, it has helped my farm because right now we're in a drought season. To be watering so many plants, it's really a humbug. So with the drip system, it's good, for the watering purpose. I just need to make more fruits to meet the market because the market is there. I started off with 2 fruits and then I could pick 8, and from 8 I could pick a dozen, and from that dozen I could pick a pound. And for the pricing, which is it's at a good price right now, it's $3,000 a pound. Half pound is $1,500 and a quarter pound is $750. So imagine if I had at least 50 pounds right now, I could extend my farm to another level.
The impact of the support has been vast. It has been huge. What I'm seeing are empowered women that are resilient, women that the support has allowed to build back. The support has allowed them to come out of that depression. And so now they're on the path of recovery, now they're on the path of beaming with confidence and empowerment. This support has really assisted the women in Clarendon, St. Elizabeth and Manchester. Apart from the provision of the grants, we will be building the capacities of 54 business owners, women business owners, and we are doing this through enhancing their financial literacy, financial management, marketing, how to boost their sales, how to build back and how to recover from the impact of Beryl.
Following climate-induced disasters, it's very important to talk directly to survivors in the middle of their situation. Then reports and data, the SDGs come to life. We can't do that from our desk, but we can do that in the countryside. That's why we're here, being able to see the damage that came after Hurricane Beryl in 2024, and to talk to these brave women amplifies our understanding of the issues and the kind of interventions that we fight for.
Well, my dream is that, as I said before, I really want to provide for my children, and this is the future business for them as well. And then I want to create opportunity where I can employ at least 2 more persons to help me, a male and a female. So it create good things for my community as well.
I wanted to do more because I know the demand for chicken is very high. So I really want to expand the business in the next couple of years or so.
It does a good thing for me where I can help myself and help my kids also as a farmer, and can help other women, also farmers, can impact them to move from where they are to a next point in life.
We face a lot of challenges, especially as a person with disabilities, and there are times when you ask for assistance, they feel that if, because you have a disability, it's like you can't earn for yourself. So I think they can do more to help us as a person with disabilities and as a female.
We're learning so much, how vulnerable persons can fall off the radar if we don't make an extra effort to include them when crises strike, how small-scale interventions can make a difference more than we would imagine, and how partnerships with government and NGOs and communities at the local level are crucial to get to results. As UNDP implements our country program in Jamaica, will continue to invest in the kind of interventions that build the resilience of our most vulnerable groups, and to advocate for the resources and consideration that will ensure that no one is left behind.